conference in Bristol. The people wanted answers. If you see them journalists gather round, swooping in like vultures. When the conference was over, the people there were no wiser. Them journalists won't answer the call, them and ask the questions at all. Oh, not at all. Not one asks about the UDC and how it's helping some people get rid of poverty. Not one asks about the treasury, BTA or BADMC. I thought one of them would ask who is really responsible, cause I always hear without a doubt we must be accountable. I thought one of them would ask about the cost overruns, like the government building down in Warrens that eating up the millions. I thought one of them would ask how effective is PAC. Is it really public or run politically? What happens after inquiry? Does somebody tail become grass? Not one asks what they can do about the golden shower, I mean the silver Santa. Not one asks. Not a single journalist. Not a single journalist. I don't mean to criticize journalists, but it was depressing. Like some kind of phobia is amiss, cause they don't like probing. I'm always hearing about freedom in the realms of journalism. The only way is to be fair, and then there should be no fear. Needless to say, not one asks about the bus fare. Why would a minister announce raise and PM say no way? Not one asks about strike action. Even the school children involved in demonstration. I thought one of them would ask what's happening with Concord. Will the fancy pill remain luxury we can't afford? I thought one of them would ask when it rains up at the airport, is it true in the new departure lounge you could very well get soaked? I thought one of them would ask why we still here in Biden. If we are pushing the CSME, why not by Caribbean? So do we have a fishing agreement? Look how much time has passed. Not one asks. What will the in Republic do for a Bajan lad or a lass? Not one asks. Not a single journalist. Not a single journalist. So much talk we hear about them journalists. People say they're biased. They must do research, the people insist. Some of them too callous. Never thought they would squander this chance to go for the juggler. Them journalists, they sat right there and let the chance slip away. Oh, what a day. Not one asked about the cost of land, and that there's no hope to get a piece for our poor Bajan. Not one asked about the economy, and how nowadays the price is really killing we. I thought one of them would ask who is really getting the smell, cause a lot of Bajans without a cent, they too must be smelling hell. I thought one of them would ask, is it hard times that contribute to a mother sending her young daughter to become a prostitute? I thought one of them would ask, did it have to take a fire for them to take prison overcrowding off the back burner? What really caused the uprising? What I heard really made me laugh. Not one single journalist. Not a single journalist.
A great, great good evening to all of you joining us tonight on the Marcia Wheat Show. A pleasure for me to be back with you today. I guess all of you know by now who I am. I'm Ferdinand Nichols, Reverend Ferdinand Nichols. And I'm grateful to Marcia for the opportunity to be able to host and share this show with you. We're going to be unpacking some stuff tonight, let me tell you. And in a few moments, I'm going to be addressing a press conference or a speech that was given last night by our Prime Minister, which I will attempt to dissect just the beginning of it and engage you later on in a few minutes. But of course, as you know, we always start with our national anthem, and that is followed by our national pledge. And so Dave is going to put that anthem right up for us, and we are going to pledge our allegiance to our country and to our flag. Dave, the national anthem of Barbados. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for that national anthem. And now, loyal opposition, I invite you to share together with me this evening, again, the national pledge of Barbados. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I want to welcome you again this evening to the Marcia Week Show. All of you that have joined us, some of you have been waiting for a while, so give me a few moments. Let me just welcome you individually if I can. I may not get all of you in, but certainly a few of you. And please don't take an offense if I don't call all of your names. Judy Dottingill, stilts. There you go. Good evening to you. A pleasure to have you with us. Taroni, it is always a joy to have you joining us on this show. Chantel Williams and Lucinda Aline, welcome. Marcia Miller, Vernon Garns, good night to you as well. Let me just flow down here. Laurie Bob, great to have you. Queen D, good to see you as well. Great to have you with us. Jefferson Sobers, Mildred Ben, great to have you with us again tonight. Diana Husbands, a pleasure to have you joining us. Just sliding down, Marvin, Aline, Owen, Hines, Cedric Strawn. Great to have all of you joining us tonight. Michael, Pauline Maynard, a pleasure to have you. Good evening, Marcia. There you are. I missed you the last time I was on the Monday, but it's good to have you back with us this evening. Patrick Designs and Joy and Faith. Pleasure to have you join us. Bajan Boy, nice to have every single one of you. And just remember, please, to share and to like. As you know, especially on YouTube, sharing just gives the algorithms the capability of pushing our show up front so that people get to see it. We don't make anything from it. Marcia does not achieve anything from it. And we certainly are grateful for you sharing with us and with those persons that you know that the show will be seen by more people. I personally want to thank all of you who assisted and have donated to the health issue with my wife. As I mentioned, and as you would find on the GoFundMe page, she does have to leave the country because of a particular piece of equipment she needs that is needed to perform an operation in her bile duct area, in the area of the pancreas and the bile duct, which we're told has the capacity to be very life-threatening. She can suffer from jaundice, and I am told that that could take her life. I certainly do not want to lose her at this time. She's a great, great woman, a massive, massive faith, a great woman of faith. She walks in that faith, but we are believers that faith without works is dead. And so we're doing what we can, and we are believing God to do the rest. She has visited the doctors. There's been slight improvements in one or two areas, but this still remains a very deeply concerning area. And I am grateful to all of you who you just came up on Saturday. And I must tell you, I was absolutely overwhelmed by your generosity. And thank you so very, very much. I will tell you, I don't even know the figure. I brought it all home and put it straight in her hands. I don't know what the figure is. She'll probably tell me before the show is over. But I want to say thank you on her behalf. She was so grateful. She was so overwhelmed to see so many people from the loyal opposition, supporting her. And she was really, really thankful to all of you that have donated. And we want to say thanks very much. As you know, we're still far from reaching the figure on the page. It's 75,000 US. That covers not only the operation, but several others that she has to do, as well as consultations, virologists, and all other kinds of specialists, anesthetic, and whatever you call those people that put you to sleep. All of those aspects are transportation, airfare, accommodation, because they're requesting her to stay for a while in the particular location, so that she, in the event something does happen or something crops up, she's there. And so that covers all of those aspects. So we just want to say thank you to all of you who donated and who have supported her. I am very grateful on behalf. I express our gratitude on her behalf. And certainly, as you can see in our picture there, she's a wonderful person. Those of you who may know her can testify to the great faith she has. She's been a real philanthropist. She's helped so many people. Uniforms, school stuff, dresses, clothing, all kinds of things that she has been able to acquire and support and help with different people down through the years. And I believe now then it's her time to receive the help. And so we are doing our utmost best to ensure that she gets it. So thank you so very much. The information is there. They'll probably put it up in the chat for you if you don't know. And of course, if you would prefer to deal directly with us rather than go through GoFundMe, there is an area there that you can contact. My son is the person who has done it for his mother, has put the page together. There's a contact location there on the page that you can send him an email if you require our local information in terms of banking information. We are not putting it out there on the page because we are aware of scammers and all these different kinds of things. So once a person reaches out to us, sends him an email, and we verify that, we will just send you directly the information to do with our local account here, and to be able to help her. She is an absolutely wonderful woman. I would have to say that God has really blessed me with a tremendous wife, and I don't want to lose her. That's all I can tell you. I don't want to lose her. Not now. Not now. We have too much work to do, not only for the Lord, but for our country. All right. So thank you so very, very much. Now, let me get into the essence of this evening. And I may not get through a lot of what I want to say, but I want to dissect the introduction of the Prime Minister's speech last night. I want to dissect it, and I'll tell you in a moment why I want to do that. Just let me just make a couple of adjustments here on my camera. Okay, I believe that when leadership knows that it has done something wrong, leadership simply needs to admit it and stop all the fancy talk. So let me, segment by segment, dissect the introduction of this speech, because I thought it was one of the most disingenuous speeches, especially at the beginning, I have ever heard come from a political leader. So let me start, first of all, from the outset, with the whole aspect of asking us to take off our blinkers or darkers or whatever it is so that we can plainly see. Madam, we have been plainly seeing since the pandemic. We are not waiting now to be advised to see. We are seeing clearly. That is why you had to take the action that you have taken. In starting her speech, she said, at the outset, let me say that this is not a political speech of any sorts. If it wasn't, madam, then there should have been no need for you to chastise those who have been opposing your perspectives as you did in the remainder of the introduction of this speech. And I'm going to take it bit by bit. Let me say this is not a political speech. It was a political speech, ma'am. Stop the nonsense. You were not having a sober, mature conversation between a government and its people, because the following words that you used suggest to us that you were chastising and trying to teach and educate us as to how we should express ourselves and what our position should be when it comes to dealing with matters that concern us. So let me put that to sleep now. You are the political leader of the party. You are the prime minister. When you speak, it's a political speech. Whether you like it or not, it's a political speech. You were addressing political matters. You were not addressing personal issues or challenges or anything of that sort. You were addressing policy. You were addressing matters to do with the political atmosphere of this country. So it was a political speech. Let me go on. She went on to say, because I know all too well that in a world of loud opinions and quick rumors, conspiracy theories, WhatsApp broadcasts, comments from ghost accounts on Facebook and IG, it is not enough anymore for me to just say people know better or should know better. Ma'am, let us be clear. There is no rumors in this matter. There are no conspiracy theories. We went through all of that rubbish during the pandemic when you sat with Amanpour and suggested that control of the internet be implemented so that conspiracy theorists who were telling people that that the treatments, let me be careful, that the treatments were not correct, were not right. You were trying to shut us down. And now we know for a fact that what we said then was true. Watch the lawsuits in the states against Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Watch what's happening before the Congress and the Senate of persons who have had to testify and prove that all that we said that you and your cohorts in the elitist grouping said was conspiracy theories were not conspiracy theories at all. There were fact. And furthermore, it concerns me when you start talking about WhatsApp broadcasts and Facebook and IG, because that suggests that this whole aspect of this bill, along with the cybercrime bill, is what you want to force into a position so you can shut these things down. But ma'am, you will never be able to shut down the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech of people in this country. The Constitution guarantees that and protects that. So let me put that to rest. You went on to talk about the Barbados Parliament has a culture of serious evidence-based debate, as though what we were saying to the public, and I am going to say it here because you know that you listen to this show, because all your lackeys in Parliament don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up against you. And just today, I'm not going to call the name, but just today, someone from deep in the bosom of your party and government told us clearly that everybody in there is afraid to open up their mouths because they will be bullied and victimized. Well, you cannot bully Ferdinand or Marcia or GLYNE or Maxine or Rose. You cannot bully us. And I've already said to people when they talk to me, don't cross swords with a man or woman from God, because ma'am, when you do that, you are putting your life in danger. The scripture tells me it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. You are not dealing with the Marcia Week show. You are not dealing with Marcia. You are not dealing with Ferdinand. You are not dealing with Rose. You are not dealing with GLYNE. You are dealing with Almighty God, who has put us here as his mouthpiece to speak truth to power, so that you understand that you are simply a pawn in the process of what he is implementing and doing where this country is concerned. So don't come talking foolishness to us about evidence-based debate. We have always presented the truth on this show, and you have always had to come back and correct your position because the truth has been exposed. Let me go on. You indicated we must not let imported conspiracy theories and cheap fare take root in our country. You have already dealt with all of that. You have already established conspiracy theories in this country. You have already established fear. We have just come out of a pandemic of fear that you were complicit in. I am not mixing any matters tonight. I am laying it bare in front of you. I certainly am not afraid of you. I have heard you in Parliament say you're not afraid of anybody. You're not afraid. Well, we are not afraid of you either, because we know who has our back. I hope you know who has yours. And I can guarantee you that the person who has ours is umpteen more powerful than the persons who have yours. I hope you know who they are, and I hope you know that they're truly on your side. So let me deal with this conspiracy theory. What conspiracy theories? You had a bill presented with regards to interception and communications that we saw flaws in. Those were evidence-based facts. So you have had to come to the country to correct it. Don't come to chastise us as people. Don't come to ridicule us as people and tell us nonsense. Admit to what you have done. Admit that you have made a mistake, and the people will embrace you, ma'am. At this point, the people don't trust you. That's the problem. Just like they don't trust the leaders of any government across the world today, except one, I think. But they don't trust because of what has happened during the pandemic. We trusted our governments, and they betrayed us. They lied to us, and they told us all kinds of rubbish when we know that many of the things they said were not true, which has now been proven to be a fact. Evidence-based science. That's what it's called. Science-based, not at what people's desires are, but what the facts are. So there's no imported conspiracy theories. We know that a lot of what is being implemented in this country comes from outside. It's imported. We know what's going on in the WEF. We know what's going on with the World Health Organization. Barbados is a signatory to the World Health Organization's recent resolution that turns the sovereignty of our country over to the WHO. America has said it ain't happening there. United States of America has told the WHO not in the United States. What have you said to them? What have you said to them on the behalf of the people of this country? We elected you to protect our sovereignty. And if you have handed it over to the WHO, you should resign and step down. I am not mixing words with you tonight. Let's get this matter clear. There's no imported theory and conspiracy theory here or any cheap fear taking root in our country apart from that you have been complicit in. Today, I want to cut through the noise. What noise? The only noise that you are hearing is the noise of the people of this country. The true opposition in this nation is called the citizenry, who are tired of your complicit involvement in taking away their freedoms and attempting to implement fear. Your conversation, your opening remarks tell us clearly you are trying to intimidate people into silence. But you can't silence the people. You can't do that. You want to cut through the noise? There's no noise but the noise of the people who are making the point to you that the direction you're heading with legislative aspects, without consultation with the people, major changes are happening to them that threaten their lives and their livelihood. And you have not even said a word. And I'll tell you what else too. And I will come to it. You talked about protecting our people, protecting their rights and strengthening the justice while strengthening safeguards. And you threaten our rights in the cybercrime bill and in this intercommunications interception bill. And you threaten our rights in several others we will discuss tonight. How could you be protecting our rights when you want to give people the right to intercept our phone calls and our communication aspects of all kinds, invade our homes without having the correct judiciary position established prior to them doing it? Don't get me started. Don't get me started on this matter. You talked about Barbados moving in the right direction, even if we slow down or pause at some point. The only reason you're slowing down and pausing is because you've been exposed. I want to make it clear all the time crop over festivals and all of that was going on. Let me read a comment that you made. You said, 5 justice. I want you to listen carefully to this. I want you to listen. While the island reveled and recovery from the revelry, some of us enjoy the festival as is all right and as we should, but that did not distract us from our work. That's the government, but it distracted the people. 5 justice and safety bills moved through the House of Assembly. Critical education reforms were outlined by the Minister of Education, and a new immigration bill and citizenship bill was introduced in Parliament while the people reveled, distracted, coming out of their revelry feeling good. You all continued your work. And listen, this is the quiet. This is the statements you made. This is the quiet and glamorous necessary work of nation building. Why quiet? Why does it have to be quiet? Why can't the people know? Why does it have to be done in secrecy and we only find out about it? And to make things worse, you have the audacity to suggest that you want to invite the people who you have just finished chastising a few sentences or a few moments prior to this statement. You want to invite them to help us as well do that work. You have been disingenuous in your address, ma'am, and I make no two bones about it. You're not a leader. You are a dictator, clothing your speech really nicely in a nice demeanor, but you are a dictator. And I know the people inside who have talked to me. You know I know people in there too, and they know me, and you will have to try and figure out who's been talking. That is your problem. But they've been talking, and many of them have been talking to us, and some spoke to me up to today and told me straight how the people in there are where you are concerned. They are intimidated. They are afraid to say a word because I believe you have something over them. You got something over them. Otherwise, some of those people in there who I know and who I thought were people of integrity and talking about integrity, all of these bills being brought forward. Where's the integrity legislation? Where is the legislation, the constitution for our republic? We are going into what, nearly 2-3 years of a republic, and we have no republic constitution. But we get in all kinds of bills coming up in the quiet and in the distraction of the revelry that we have had around us. I am going to stop there, because if I go through the rest of this speech, I can assure you that it will not be a pleasant exercise. I can absolutely assure you of that. All right, let's be clear on this matter. I am not mixing any bones with you tonight, because you are wrong. And a true leader, when a true leader is wrong, when they realize they've made a mistake, when their citizens are saying to them they're concerned, how dare you talk about fear mongering in the country? People are telling you they're concerned about the legislation. What madness am I hearing? People are telling you they're concerned about education. I am seeing the comments of educators saying you need to back up and review this matter. Immigration bill, you need to back up and review this matter. We will be talking about the police reform matter in a few minutes as well. And you're going to be so disingenuous as to begin your speech with a chastising of the people of Barbados that you are their auntie and they're your niece and nephew and children. I'm telling you no, you ain't no auntie mate to me, and I wish to God all of the people in Barbados to stop that rot. Stop it. You're the prime minister, act like one. And instead of jet setting all around the world representing climate change, which I ain't even going to touch because Al Gore is a liar and he's the leader of a hoax that started back in 1993 that you have bought into, like all the rest of the mad leaders you have in this world, because of the taxpayers' money that's going into all of these areas and into their pockets. You don't want to get me started here. You do not want to get me started on this climate change matter. You don't. You don't. And having our young people dragged into the rubbish that you have been a part of, and you know that it is a hoax and a lie. You know it. Al Gore started it back in 1993. I know when he started it, sustainable development crap. And every year, talking about 10 years from now, 10 years from now, 10 years from now, 10 years from now, and we ain't gone no further. 100 million tons of brand new ice in the Antarctica. And we are in a climate change. You know, we may be having some changes in climate. I'm not going to deny that, but nothing to do with the foolishness that you have been a part of, going jet setting around this world and talking rubbish instead of challenging the people. As a prime minister and a leader of a country, instead of challenging those people, you buy into all the crap. You got the proof. You're a scientist. You're a meteorologist. You're a weather expert. Instead of that, you're sitting down listening to all the rubbish from people who have been paid to speak certain things because it profits them. I've always been told, follow the money and you will see. But anyhow, let me get out of the way, because I believe my first guest must be somewhere there waiting for me to get out of the way. So let me try and get out of the way, because I ain't joking with you tonight. Because when I sat down and watched that speech, I couldn't believe you were a leader. Because when I made mistakes in my church and I messed up, I went to my church and I said, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct this. I'm going to correct that. Let me welcome my first guest, GLYNE. Welcome, GLYNE.
Good night, Ferdy.
Let me cool down a little bit. I got some water here I have to take to just cool me down, because I got so angry, GLYNE. You would not believe it. No, and I don't know if it's God's righteous indignation inside of me when I hear a leader who is supposed to be looking after the well-being of the people speaking the foolishness and the rubbish and the disingenuous manner in which I saw this. So let me welcome you. I think I can cool down enough to welcome you, sir.
Thank you. And I hope thank you very much. I feel your pain, your anger, your frustration, whatever. But you will notice I'm wearing my national colors tonight, and later on, you will see why I'm wearing these colors. My topic tonight is PM's national address under microscope and Hatchet. PM's national address under microscope and Hatchet. And without us having discussed it, you yourself had begun that same analytical job on the Prime Minister's national address. But before you do so, I quite that song you played tonight by RPB, No One Asks, is talking about the press conferences in the day when there used to be real press conferences in Barbados, and even I had it on my press conference on my notes, even before knowing that song was coming. But that illustrates the point I'm going to make, because I'm saying, as a result of the lack of quality,
yes,
and consistency and relevance of the Prime Minister's so-called national address last night, I am tired of these kind of so-called addresses. I'm tired of press briefings. We want to go back to the real press conferences where ministers and Prime Minister sat before the press on the topic and there were questions. Now all we get is they come and brief you or tell you, and then you report, and that's it. No follow through. The press are never given an opportunity to challenge this assertions, challenge their credibility, challenge their facts whatsoever. We have to they speak from on high to us, and reporters now are none but minions and report. They really report. They are recorders rather than reporting. They record and reproduce. And I think in my day when I was a practicing journalist, I one of these days will tell you some clashes I had with Premier Barrow and how I boycotted him for about a month because of his misbehavior towards me and the outfit. But I won't take it that time now. The point is that we were people of guts and courage and pride in our profession, understanding and practices of and the ethics of our profession. Now, this government, the Prime Minister, has been promising freedom of information since before 2018, and topic does not come up. So I'm saying let's dispense with that. Let's get back to the basics. If the so-called journalists in Barbados, I'm sorry I would have to be so harsh on, because they are mere record reproducers. They do nothing to fulfill the principles and practice of the profession. And in my day, we would have said, we would only, until you have a press conference, we would not attend your press conference. If you want us to stand it out by GS, and we would do our duty and reproduce it in GS, but we would not come and sit at your feet to be told what to say and what to reproduce on that. So in that context, so you understand how you felt about what was presented last night. And I want to say that as far as last night, I was neither disappointed nor surprised. Just simply tired of the PM coming with these harangues. You talk about the chastising. I think she talked down. She patronized.
Yes, exactly.
Although she's the repository, she in her few years, she's almost 60 now or so. She has accumulated the centuries-old accumulated wisdom and practices in Barbados from the beginning until now. And now she knows best for the whole country. And I let you deprecate it. And she should know better than what to do, right?
Absolutely.
But okay, let's look at the visual. I'm going to break down. Let me give you the categories under which I will analyze the speech. The visual aspects of her presentation, the tone of our presentation, the structure of our presentation, the content, and my understanding of the likely impact. 5 segments. Okay, so let's go. I didn't think that for a national address, the Prime Minister's outfit last night did not suit the occasion. She wore a blue top, as I saw, but there was no sign of the Barbados flag.
Yes, again, it was missing. It was completely gone.
And if I ever had to attend a press conference with the Prime Minister, my first questions would be, what do you have against wearing the Barbados pin on your chest? Explain why. And not only she wore a blue, which was compatible with our black, ultramarine and gold. But then that was covered, her left breast where the pin should have been, was covered by a length of cloth, which had some patterns in it that bears some resemblance, some hints of the national colors of gold, ultramarine, and black. But they did not. I'm saying if you're a Prime Minister, you're given national, everything about you should signify and demonstrate or represent and symbolize in the very strongest possible terms the symbols of Barbados that we had here. Fortunately, we had the flag in the background, but that was strong and positive. But as for the rest of it, she did not live up to it to what was expected. And I'm still puzzled by why would you? I would like the Prime Minister to explain to me why she's adopted this length of cloth. It's not a scarf or scarf. You wear a scarf on your head, your neck, your shoulders. This one is draped on the left side. And to me, it makes anything she wears or anybody who just look inelegant. It diminishes, it reduces, it destroys the cut of your attire, the elegance of it, whatever. And to me, it is Barbados incongruous to Barbados's cultural practice. I have never seen that before by a Barbadian leader or politician until the Prime Minister adopted. Then have some of her minions, both male and female, start to copy it. Most of them seem to have dropped it. But that is represented for what I've researched of a chieftain, a leader, a wise one in other cultures, but not in Barbados. So why do you therefore slavishly adopt such a practice that is not relative to our culture, that's not emanated from our culture? It's not does not represent who we are, but you are now portraying and publicizing and reinforcing somebody else's cultural practices. So that is really visually is concerned. The tone of the speech, you hinted at the tone of the speech. I said it was patronizing. She sounded like a head teacher.
Yes.
Scolded and berating.
Scolding the children.
Right. Like a parent speaking to their children. But to me, it represented what the Prime Minister normally does when she realizes her government is under pressure. She organizes a press conference or sets up a committee. I think we were glad last night she didn't set up another commission or committee. And she comes and talks on to the public. But what she needs to do, she had some very harsh criticisms of people. But I think what she has to understand that what she's doing, these people come from the court of public opinion out into society.
Correct.
And that is what she sees she needs to convince, not herself or her supporters, but the court of public opinion. Her speeches to be set that the harsh public criticism is the harsh public criticism of the public that support you in two general elections, the majority, and now we're looking for a third. So the tone was very wrong, very inappropriate. It was not something uplifting. It was a state of the nation approach, how she saw the condition of the nation, but it did not represent what is happening. She missed the boat consistently. That is the tone. Everybody got its structure. It did not flow smoothly. There no one segue smooth from one segment into the next. It was a hodgepodge of things that came out there as she spoke as she went along, back and forth, to the sense that even when she was trying to, what they call her climax at the end, even when she was trying to climax at the end by dealing with something positive, having spent the night criticizing those who have quite justifiably drawn her attention to the inadequacy, the undemocratic nature, the insensitive nature, the offensive nature of some of the legislation. Even when she did that, when she rather than just end on a climax, a positive note of all the merriment and the good times that you're supposed to have from Kerry Fester, she then went back and destroyed the peroration, destroyed the oratory of the occasion by talking about hurricanes and the danger that prevail for it. To me, that dragged the speech when you want to end on a positive note, an uplifting note to send the country forth to enjoy and participate and support Kerry Festival, which is supposed to be a glorious. And let me. I will find time to talk about that too. Of the event, that climax, that important part of the speech was destroyed. Then come after having hyped Kerry Fester and its value and importance and what what it means to the region of Barbados, she finished on a less upbeat note. The content she sought to, well, of course, it was full of her usual cliches and buzzwords.
Yep.
But fortunately, she did not repeat one blow the scale or cow, or too many hands, many hands make light work. You were spared of that, but still, it was nothing that showed any sincerity, any attempt to really deal with the issues in the public. It was to me, she typed, rather than trying to explain the issues like in with the legislation, and the public's quite justifiable in abhorrence and repulsion at what was attempted, this time legally, under the guise of wiretapping. She sought, rather than trying to explain it, tell us how you arrived at it, tell us the context. She tried to explain it away, make excuses for, shift the explanation away from her and her government to other people and other issues. And it fell down very, very badly. So it did not in any way help the public to understand how appreciate what led the government step by step to this very outstanding negative step that no other government in Barbados has sought to do before. Of course, I think generally speaking, the public were supportive and are supportive of most of the legislation, most of the 5 bills, and most of the parts of the 5 bills, except this one that David, the unaccountable, unsupervised provisions that dealt with the 52C, or I forget that dealt with the question of not control, not supervise, not authorize activities right, that one. And what the Prime Minister does not seem to grasp is that she did not, everything about her speech showed that she did not understand or ignored the spirit of the times, the spirit of the country. Contrary to what she would like us to believe, she wants to think that people like on this show and other fora have been critical of her, a minority. But believe me, the people I talk to, people who call me, right across Barbados, they were incensed, they were let down, they were shocked, they were horrified as to this step of what was being explained, what was being attempted in this legislation. And what she doesn't seem to understand is that dissatisfaction, that suspicion, that mistrust, that distrust, all came out of a past historical experience when, as her government admitted, as she and her government admitted to our ministers about the previous wiretapping, it happened. And when you have some of the principles show activity from all reports and documented to the principal persons involved in that earlier illegal, we call it, unaccounted for wiretapping. The public are justifiably suspicious, mistrustful, and cynical when those are now at the helm, at the upper echelons of this process. They must not feel settled and comfortable about it. And what is the Prime Minister has had a reputation of being bright, but they also know in Barbados, you're familiar with the term, you're bright, but you ain't shining. She's not shining out there.
Yes.
When you put all of that into context, you then should have appreciated why persons would be very, very careful and wary of what was being attempted in parts of this legislation. And I take tactical. She did not. The Prime Minister, why her ministers sought to justify the thrust of this bill by saying it happened before, or now you're going to regularize it, and et cetera, et cetera. The Prime Minister, if she were sensitive to the mood of the country, and I believe the Prime Minister is either surrounded by a bunch of yes people, or they live in a bubble in which they don't communicate with the rest of society, or they believe that they're so right they ignore everything else. The Prime Minister to use the occasion to apologize to the country, like you said, to say, okay, it happened before, we are sorry, whatever part any of us had. She did not even have to seek to pinpoint any particular individual, some of whom I'm sure she knows very well. But all she had to say, as a matter of fact, we apologize to the country. We made a misstep, and I give you the assurance that with the built-in safeguards in this legislation, it will under us never happen again. It will not even be attempted again. That would help to somewhat minimize and assuage the public's mind and anger and frustration, even as to why this is being attempted in this form. And I think that would have helped to soften the blow and made it more amenable and made it more acceptable and trustworthy of the public. None of that was done. Instead, people were blaming persons who had legitimate criticisms or blamed for it. I also felt that the Prime Minister lost a golden opportunity to show her the sincerity of her action when she did not seize the opportunity to commend. She made mention of the report of the Democratic Party's Commission on Crime, which has been very well received. And I believe the impact and the high acceptance that the report has gotten on the party that forced the Prime Minister's hand and the government's hand into compiling all this hastily contrived legislation in a hurry because they didn't want to be seen. That's why I understand.
We lost the communication there for a little bit. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. She didn't want to seem to be coming playing catch up with the DLP as such. So therefore, these things were rushed to show that they too are in the mix, are in the game, because they have had a reputation and that people have seen them and accused them of not being as strong and forceful and keen of crime fighting as they should have been. So Mr. Thorne is the one who brought out the anomaly, the frightening part in the legislation about the political nature of the appointment of the so-called supervisory authority of the wiretapping. And he showed the inherent political dangers that would have been at bay, at practice, if it had been left in that form. And he called for an amendment. And the Prime Minister announced the agreement with the amendment when she spoke at the floor house. So there was some merit. Obviously, there was some merit in the work done by Mr. Thorne. There was also merit done in the work done by Mr. Corey Greenwich, who obviously made a tremendous impact on the public with his presentations on radio, on the Marcia Week show, and elsewhere on the DLP TV about the intricacies and details of the thing. And I think, and he's not going to be a candidate. And we have to wait and see how much that will take him forward as a candidate in Christchurch South in the elections. And it reminded me, I don't know if it reminded me too of an encounter early in his career that the late David Thompson had on a television program, I think it was called Understand on Television, when he established himself as a credible debater against much more senior adversaries, debater adversaries, and that helped to propel himself into the public mind as a person to watch and a person of the future. He did vindicate that perception, and he rose to talk to become Prime Minister. There was also an instance where, I think it was during the 1990 election, where Richard Seeley, who became a minister in the DLP government as a youngster, when the DLP government got in 2000, in the 1990 election, he had an encounter. In those days, you had political debates between representatives of the party as part of the campaign, foreign affairs, on the economy, the prime minister, the leaders, etc. And he had a debate against Miss Billy Miller, who was a much more seasoned campaigner and politician. And he did very well. And that helped to propel him into his future success in Microscope Central, and he's becoming a minister. So I'm saying that this is good work done by Mr. Greenwich, and we wait to see how he converts that into gains and advances at the poll or not. But I also want to say that I support Mr. Thorne's refusal on all those in DLP to participate in this so-called Citizen Advisory Committee on Citizen Security, which has had a very tacky reputation given the sudden resignation and surprising resignation of Professor Velman University, an eminent Barbadian as chairperson. You notice the Prime Minister never makes reference to that resignation.
That's correct. That's correct.
That casts a pall, to me, that casts a pall and a dark cloud over the work of that commission and the Prime Minister of that committee. And the Prime Minister never has thanked her for her work, nothing for it. But I feel that given the refusal of the Prime Minister to be flexible in making it possible for the DLV to enjoy part of the public purse as a subvention to the political party. And it's not in the Constitution, it's a policy of the Mines Commission of Parliament. It's a political policy worked out among the persons who are represented. So that can be varied. But the point is, if the DLP and its persons and its work are not good enough to justify this subvention, when you recall that there are scores of other institutions in Barbados that have done less for the development of Barbados than the DLP, who benefit from a subvention. So if the DLP is not good enough to benefit from something, therefore its work, its personnel, its limited research are not good enough, I feel, to join another committee by the government. The government says that they were elected to govern, let them govern. Let them govern like they seek to do it. That was the tone of her part of her speech, so that, you at some point you consult, you do, but then you have to make a decision. You go on, you made a decision, go on. And I don't think the government, I don't think the DLP should be anywhere feel reluctant or penalized by I think they're doing they're justifying, they're standing their ground and let it be known, the Prime Minister know that they're not there to be used at the convenience of the government when they think they need their help. Because they've done nothing so far to justify it. So I therefore think that the impact of the speech was not what was expected.
Right.
I think it had a limited impact. And you watch my time because you owe me 4 minutes.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay,
I took 4 minutes. I took 4 minutes from you. I can admit my mistakes.
All right, cool. Oh no, you should be proud. You got my report for Prime Minister today. Yeah. The thing is that I think there were a couple of factors why I think the things that the tone, the content, the structure, etc., her visual image, all of what contributed to minimize the impact of the speech, of the address, right, to the nation. But I think a cardinal error was made by the Nation newspaper in agreeing to carry a detailed, extensive, comprehensive summary of the speech in the Sunday Sun, when hours before the Prime Minister was going to record it, put it on TV tonight. So what happened was that, of course, I could understand the government. The Sunday Sun is the biggest selling newspaper of the week, and you will want your speech to get the maximum exposure. But what he has done is that, having read it in such detailed fashion on the back page of Sunday Sun, people, I for one, I only watched it because I want to see the full thing for myself, so live as presented. I was less interested and keen on watching because in my day, I think when you're growing up, when you had cab oil, something was a wet, you call it something fibs.
Mm-hmm.
When it did like, so it was a wet, what the British would call a wet squib. Something that did not live up to expectations and promise. So the Prime Minister's impact fell severely short of what it should be for such an event, and therefore it did not get the maximum impact that it should have. But again, I say the Prime Minister did not again take into account the the public mood did not capture the public. And her the approach and content and her speech were not geared towards reflecting that mood. Seek to answer the questions, seeks to explain, seeks to open the eyes, seeks to set at rest any concerns, justifiable or otherwise, of the public, but not just to say, well, we are government, we did something, we're going to do it, and we're going to move on.
But not only that, GLYNE, there is this continuous, and I take umbrage, is that the word? To the continuous expression that she used throughout her speech to do with matters that have been expressed by others as rumors and conspiracy theories. And I'm looking at this transcript of the speech. I have the transcript of the speech. I didn't get it from the Nation. I got it from YouTube, because YouTube gives you a transcript talking about people quoting from the Bible, liberally without forgetting to remember the Bible tells us not to engage in falsehoods. These are the disingenuous expressions that she has made, because the mere fact, in my view, GLYNE, that she had to hold this type of a press conference tells me that what we are saying was correct. If it wasn't correct, why waste time? You don't have to waste time.
The insincerity, what I also like, I like the word term deprecate. I abhor, I repudiate this tendency to call people who voice objections or criticism to her government's activities, the Prime Minister's government activity, as noise, dismiss it as noise.
That's the expression.
So,
it's noise.
So this is not worth anything. Everything is noise, so just ignore it, shut it out. Not really. By that attitude, it is robbing her and depriving her of her party of understanding, of capturing the depth of the public feeling and their perception, negative or positive, about the government's policies and program, and they're missing out on stuff. And this idea that you have the right to categorize and label everybody else's activities and things as noise, I think is unbecoming of the Prime Minister, and she should do better in the future.
And not only that, GLYNE, when you consider the fact that it takes the kind of noise, if she wants to call it that has been propagated by the people of the country to get explanations to things that should not be. We are now getting explanations as to what you are doing, a breakdown as to what is going on. This is what the people asked for up front.
That's right.
And this is the same kind of mentality that comes before us with this interception bill, where you're talking about a warrant being executed after you have investigated a matter in order to get a warrant. It's the same kind of thinking. And this is where she doesn't seem to grasp it and understand. And that happens when people feel that they are beyond being criticized and they are the McGuffey and you can't tell me what to do. Listen, that is a plantocratic mentality that we will not tolerate in Barbados anymore. That was our old colonial mindset. That is the master slave coming out of the white man's house, plantation house, talking to his fellow black people.
I do not say, I just say, I have not even put in all those terms. All I'm saying is arrogance, the arrogance of power.
Yes.
The breeding of autocracy or autocrats, where you have little time and concern for the public's rights to expression, and where everything is a bother and a nuisance that you could do without of. So that's how I say it. I think it is an evidence to. You've heard me talk about the arrogance of power, the majority, where a majority where a government uses majority, the tyranny of the majority. The tyranny of the majority is a well-known political concept where you use everything you're possible to grind others out. You become very autocratic and insensitive and undemocratic in your behavior and thinking and practice and attitude, and that does the country great harm. And I think we therefore have to be on our feet. All of these things are. Look at the cybercrime bill. The way this one has been handled. is all side of that autocratic behavior. Any autocratic behavior or practice are enemies of democracy. It undermines your democracy, and that's what we might seek to think. And I think I've had my 4
Well,
minutes.
you know, Glenn, I wish we had more time. You know, I really, really wish we did, that we could explore even these things further, because there is a lot in her speech that just, it hasn't frustrated me or anything. I've just been angry because I don't like people to be treated like dogs and talked down to like animals. I don't like that. I don't like it. And when I find a leader who rather than embracing and accepting your failures and correcting them so that people respect you even more, what you do is you now double down on disrespect, conspiracy theories of our stolen of real work. Let us, I mean, come on. That's not what we are satisfied with. So I
So
want to really,
just for the record, that is why I thought I'd try to compensate for the deficiencies in the national attire of the Prime Minister last night.
right,
I'm
right.
trying to break by wearing these colors which represent the Barbados national colors. Very well, I think. And also, I once met in Toronto. I went into a store that specializes in ties and cufflinks, all the accoutrements for a man. And he told me when he saw my Barbados pin and saw my tie that had the Barbados color, he said that combination of blue and gold is the most popular of his colors inside.
Wow.
It is the
Wow.
most. It is the most popular. People always respond to it. All right,
Well,
and
I
therefore,
tell you,
therefore,
I
to
wear it with pride.
see it being shoved aside like the Prime Minister, that is really quite unbecoming and unsatisfactory.
I wear it with pride, I can assure you. Well, Glenn, I don't know if you want to stay with us or if you want to take a break and come back in later, because we do have some other aspects to engage. But
No,
I'm
sure.
going to,
I'll stay with you.
thank
I don't
you.
want, yeah.
I'm going to welcome Rose to our show tonight. Good evening, Rose. It's so nice to have you. I understand that we're going to be graced with another lady later on, and it would be myself and Glyne again. You know, the two gentlemen having to respect the two ladies on the stage. I know he is used to that, and I have been trained in that by my mother. So, welcome, Rose. It's great to have you on the show again tonight. Let me unmute you. You need to unmute. I'll tell you when you've got it. Not yet. You haven't unmuted yet. Got to make sure you get the right button. I'm not sure which button it is, but just that you can unmute. I haven't seen it yet. Let me see if I can. I can't do it from my end. Yeah, okay, you got it. It's unmuted there. Let's hear if we're hearing you. Not hearing you. You're unmuted, but we aren't hearing you. Would you like to try going back out and coming back in again, and just to get it, if you'd like to do that? Okay, all right. Glenn, she's going to probably just go out and come
No
back in.
problem. If you want me to
Um,
fill in the meantime, I'm hoping at
yeah,
some point we can get a chance to talk about Carrie Fester, because there's serious questions to be. Serious information has not been given to Carrie Fester about Carrie Fester.
right.
All right, the
I'm,
costs that Barbados will have to bear, etc.
yeah, I'm not sure. I just want to give her Rose.
Right.
You better go out, and you better go right out and come back in. Unless you want to try, I can try adding you again. Let me try adding you again. And okay, you're on the stage now. Try unmuting, and let's see if we hear you this time. Okay, she's gone out to come back in. We have this protest march coming up on Saturday, Glyne. We are not giving up. We're not stopping. We have this protest march coming up on the 23rd. I believe that is this coming Saturday, from Kensington again to the roadside Parliament following the roadside parliament at Independence Square. And we'll be looking at demanding an amendment to Section 68 of the Police Act and the aspect of the national consultation on the immigration bill. That is this coming Saturday, Glyne, because there are some aspects to that police act that are deeply concerning. This is not noise, it's not rumor, it's not conspiracy theory. Nobody's stealing an hour of work. This is the nobody being disenchanted. These are no falsehoods. These are questions and concerns being raised by the citizens of the country. And even if it is 100 people, they are citizens that you represent. They have a right to ask your questions. And what
Yeah,
you have the responsibility to do is to answer them. So, this coming Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, loyal opposition, we have another march from Kensington Oval, 10 o'clock, to Independence Square, where it will culminate with a roadside parliament. And we are demanding, you see, we are not in a position now where we are begging or asking anything. Glenn, I don't think these people understand they work for the people of Barbados,
but
I don't think they get that.
The Prime Minister did say last night that those pieces of legislation are online on a website, and that they'll be white, and that there's going to be some committee dealing with some of them, and that they're going to be the bill that will be widely distributed. She did not spell out how it will be distributed, because
Hmm.
one of the deficiencies and the problems because of the wiretapping legislation is that the public was not primed and explained and given information to evaluate themselves. This thing was just thrown on them with all the deficiencies, because if it had been ventilated, I'm sure people in the public would have spotted, would have pinpointed and spotted the inaccuracies, etc., the contradictions and the deficiencies in that legislation. So I'm hoping that they learn from that mistake, and that they use government funds to print copies and distribute freely around the country. We used to get it
Correct.
cheaply from government. To put things in this day and age online is not to make it accessible to people. Not everybody can get it. Not
Correct.
everybody has a printer to print it. Why can't they, if they can spend so much money on Carry Fest and other things, and they got some figures out that for you that I'll talk later, why can't they spend a few $1,000s and print copies of legislation that people can once again get copies from the government printed even for a token sum? That'll cover the costs, and therefore be better educated about the information, about the information in the legislation, and that would avoid the government and the public having to go through the trauma and confusion time after time because of inadequacy of information upfront.
I totally agree with you, Glenn. Well, I see Rose is back in. So, Rose, let's see if we've got you with your voice now.
Good evening.
Wow.
Yes, we have you
Welcome,
with your
welcome,
voice. Welcome,
welcome.
welcome, welcome. So good to have you with us. Good evening.
Thank you. And I want to say good evening to you, Glenn.
Good evening,
Always
ma'am.
a pleasure to be with you and with Pastor Purdy. I may say good evening to loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen of our faith. And I take the lead from you, Dr. Purdy, Reverend Purdy. Do I go on?
The floor is yours.
Thank you.
The floor, we're
I
going to give
want
you
to,
some extra time as well because we did have that little challenge with your technology. So we'll give you back those few minutes. And I did steal
yes,
4 minutes
please.
from Glyne, which he stole from you, which I will give you back.
Yes, please. And I timed myself, so I
Thank
hope I'll
you.
make good use of my time. But I want to say, just quickly following on from you and Glenn, that I said I had the opportunity last night when I should be sleeping after midnight in the quiet of the night. I listened to the Prime Minister's speech in its entirety, and I, again, though not wanting it, I received the usual reprimanding. I'll be very kind to say the reprimands and the voice of chastisement. And that seems to have become the norm from government. Uh, whether it's on the lower floor House of Parliament or whether it's coming from the Senate, from the government ministers, or on any of the several platforms on which the government ministers or persons of the side of the government, wherever their position, we tend to be reprimanded, uh, threatened to be put in detention, and that is disconcerting for me. And so I had made a note, a tone of chastising, a tone of reprimanding, and also it caused me to recall the opening of the Afritsen Bank that occasion when the prime minister used that opportunity, and I felt so disappointed to reprimand those who would have protested about how that property was given over. And I recall I listened where she described the protests as diatribe. And if you know, diatribe is a very bitter, forceful, verbal attack on someone or something. And we're getting those kind of public reprimands. Um, that shouldn't be, because we protest, because we don't agree, because it's a voice of dissension that we're saying, no, it shouldn't happen. And so I thought the opportunity was missed again by giving um, so much attention to voices that would be seen otherwise, um, given the fact they don't agree, or it is their democratic right to speak on these matters. And that concerns me. Also, Mr. Murray, this is in your area. I would have thought too that the announcements about Carifesta would have come from the minister responsible for culture. I would have thought that I don't know if you spoke to it when I had to sign out to come back in, but that could be discussed later. But I thought that that would have been a good, not her, or although the Ministry of Culture is located within the Prime Minister's office, I thought that the privilege would have been accorded or afforded to the Minister of Culture. However, tonight I want to ask a question. Where are the MPs? MPs, where are you? And that I played with from last night. Last night, in listening to the Marcia Week show, I noticed in the chat while Mr. Corey Greenwich was speaking, I noticed in the chat someone said that we need political literacy. And that played on my mind the whole day. And I didn't have enough time, but I did some research on a quick research on political literacy. And it means basically having an awareness and understanding of things political, of your role in as a participant in the political domain, your contributions, your expectations from the political persons, your parliamentary representative, just like they are touting financial literacy. What about political literacy? And this is not the responsibility of government. This is the responsibility of individuals and how we see politics and how we see political representation. We need to become more politically literate and know that it cannot be politics as usual, particularly how we have seen the reach of giving one party all the seats, 30-0, and only being rescued of sort by the lone voice, previously that of Bishop Joe Adderley, and now by um, Honorable MP Ralph Thorne. And so that is our responsibility. And one of the things you always talk about it, Pastor Ferdy, is that of the role of the MP. Why have we sent you to Parliament? What are our expectations? And I Googled again, my phone is ticking, on the role of an MP. And they said, first and foremost, that role is to represent the people. That role is to, I'm summarizing, to ensure good governance. That role is to act as the bridge between the people and government and parliament, to keep them informed, to keep them up to date on legislation, on bills, on any action undertaken by the government through Parliament, doing this in the interest of the persons who have voted for you and sent you there. We are not getting that kind of representation. I don't know if you're getting it, Pastor Ferdy, but I think not, because I do hear your concerns and your reminders that we have sent the MPs there and we're paying them. We're paying them and paying them well. And Mr. Murray, as a former senator and minister, I believe he would subscribe to the role of the MP. It is more than the tokenism and the tokens given for the vote. We need to have political literacy this time around and ask serious questions. Who are we sending to Parliament? Why are we sending them there? And what representation are we expecting? And it is not only the promises that they will give us pre-election, but it is the follow through, and it is representing the people, particularly my fellow panelists, particularly when there is something that needs to be unraveled in the interest of the people, just like how we had the leader of opposition and Mr. Corey Greenwich unraveling the complexities of this Interception of Communication Bill 2024. This is my concern. MPs, where are you? When it was the cybercrime bill, it had to take civil society, persons like myself, like you, Pastor Ferdy, persons like Kimar, who used to be with us, like Caswell, Marcia. We had to, a group of us worked behind the scenes to extrapolate information, to inform the public and to inform those various submissions. You remember, Pastor
Yes, I do.
Ferdy.
Yes, I do.
And so it is civil society who seems to be taking up the mantle that the MPs who have been sent to the House of Assembly, they're not doing. And they are only saying, yes, we agree, they're silent. Or when they speak uninformed as unlearned persons who have not studied the content or the context of the documents before them. And therefore, I am asking MPs where you. We did not hear you on the cybercrime bill. We have not heard you on this wiretapping bill. We are not hearing you. We don't hear you. We have not heard you on education reform. What is your role in the House of Parliament? And to this end, I have a letter that I would have drafted to send to my parliamentary representative, Honorable MP Tony Moore, who represents St. George North. And I went to her constituency office on Monday, but she wasn't there. And we were able to take a photo shot of information on how to contact her. And I've drafted this letter because we've been encouraged on the Marcia Week show, as well as by Mr. Corey Greenwich, to lobby our MPs, write to our MPs, get communique out there that says this is our concern. And permit me please to use, it is about 8 minutes reading. Permit me, Pastor Ferdy, may I?
Well, you have about 18 minutes, so
Yes, I'll read it quickly. Thereon, and it's dated the 11th of August 2023. And although we see in today's paper that the Prime Minister said that the wiretap bill is to be revised, I noticed that the article begins that government will move swiftly. So I shall be emailing this to the MP, given that is the contact information, to let her know my concerns. And it reads like this. And I believe I represent not only myself, the constituents of St. George North, but concerned Barbadians in general. And it reads, Dear Honorable Member of Parliament, Miss Tony Moore, Parliamentary Representative of St. George North, the circumstances on which I write to you concern the Interception of Communications Bill 2025, which was brought to the House of Parliament on Friday, the 8th of August 2025. Like most of the other important bills, this particular bill took most of the Barbadian public off guard and unprepared, as was the Cybercrime Bill 2024, which was brought to us. I am of the view that MPs like yourself are sent by the vote, by the people, to represent the people first and foremost, with party taking a secondary position. Also, I would like to think that any move and decision by government through bills and legislation that would appear to or seek to cause consternation to the public, including your constituents, will see parliamentary representatives like yourself coming to the people who sent them to Parliament and sharing with the people, or even though you may differ, the content and context and implications of these legislative items and actions matter. This is true parliamentary representation, which goes beyond the Paris Speaks Fora and Ideas Fora, wherein you have witnessed and have been part of yourself where the Prime Minister commandeers the sessions and the discussions, and at times embarrassingly puts the Member of Parliament on the spot to respond, thus highlighting the inadequacies of the parliamentary representatives. I long for the day when there's a paradigm shift in political representation beyond the promise of jobs and roads and street lighting and water and other infrastructural things, though important, and which, as you are aware, don't happen in most cases after you get the vote and are sequestered in the House of Parliament with its parliamentary privileges, purse, and perks. The Barbadian public, including your constituents, need to hear from their parliamentary representatives. Representatives like yours regularly on matters such as bills that will impact their lives now, later, and for future generations. I listened from start to finish to the live broadcast from the House of Parliament of the Attorney General's presentation to the House on Friday, the 8th of August, of the Interception of Communications Bill 2025. As a layperson, the more I listened, the more I heard, the more concerned I became. I followed through, paying attention to the response of the Leader of Opposition, Honorable Ralph Thorne, King's Counsel, to that bill. I was anticipating, after the recess, the usual debate from the floor of Parliament by the MPs, whether they be cabinet ministers or backbenchers like yourself. But needless to say, I was disappointed by the first contribution led off by the Minister of Home Affairs, MP Abrams, who, as per usual, spent the majority of his time seeking to bash and derail the leader of the opposition, and then to hail this disconcerting bill as a good piece of intended legislation. After his submission, I expected more responses from the floor, only to hear the MP taking over the debate. Not MP, Prime Minister taking over the debate through to the end, and not another voice but hers on the matter. When we did hear the voices of the MPs present, including yours, it was the usual aye in accepting and agreeing to the bill and its passing on the lower house, in the lower house. We are aware, the public, that this bill is being hurriedly passed through to the upper house in the form in which it was presented, with changes to typographical, spelling, and grammatical errors, and with the inclusion of the proposed amendment by the Prime Minister, Honorable Mia Amor Mottley, to the section on the selection and composition of the Monitoring Commission. As a concerned citizen of Barbados and one of your constituents, I join with many other citizens of Barbados who are perturbed about this particular piece of legislation and what can be perceived as an invasion into their and ours and my privacy, even though we're being told and made to believe that law-abiding citizens need not to worry about wiretapping, and that it will not infringe on their personal privacy. Of what consolation is this to us? And one worries, how far will its tentacles reach? So I'm asking you, MP Moore, in whose constituency resides St. George North, What is your position on this particular piece of legislation? And what do you have to say about it to your constituents who have sent you to Parliament in good faith, that you would give them good representation? I have heard you on other occasions, like the others, chastising the public, those who were not in agreement or in wholehearted acceptance. For example, with the Cybercrime Bill and the Child Protection Act. Like the Cybercrime Bill, those who are voicing their concerns find sections of the Interception of Communications Bill to be draconian and intimidating, and which can lead to not just paranoia, but genuine fear of what it can evolve into and the advantage taken. Will we hear your voice on this bill beyond agreement to its passage? My request through you is that this bill, like the cybercrime bill, will be put on hold, that a process is followed with as was with the Interception of Communications Bill, similar to that of the Cybercrime Bill and the Child Protection Bill. The process followed on both occasions allowed the public to make submissions, written, virtual, or in person, indicating their concerns and suggestions for amendment. This bill must be put on hold and be revisited and redrafted in its entirety. In addition, I'm asking that there will be a reverse of Section 52B and that this be scrapped in good faith and in the interest of the public. Although the AG tells us that we have joined the party as a country late and are doing catch up with some of our neighboring islands, this does not give an excuse for an hurriedly drafted bill with inherent flaws and one which raises anxiety on the part of the Barbadian public in general, including myself. Can I be assured by you, MP Moore, that you will rise honorably to the occasion and speak to your colleagues privately and from the floor about this troubling piece of legislation? The Interruption of Communications Bill 2025, popularly and euphemistically referred to as wiretapping. I look forward to receiving a response from you, either to this piece of correspondence or by your submission from the floor. And I close with this poem with which you're familiar. First they came. First they came for the communists, and I did not
Yeah,
speak out
yeah,
because I was not a communist.
that's
Then
right.
they came for the socialists, and I did
And you
not
did not
speak
speak
out
up.
because I was not a socialist. Then they came for
Yeah,
the trade unionists, and I
unionists.
did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out
Because it was
because I
not
was
you.
not a Jew. Then they came for
For me,
me,
and there was no
and
one
there was no one left
to
to
speak.
speak out for me. Thank you. Yours humbly, Rosalind Corbin. And back to my question here. MPs, where are you? The Barbadian public, unlike what you believe about us, we are politically literate
That's right. That's right.
and we speak out. You can call it diatribe, you can call
Call it
it
noise.
protesting, we call it acting on informed basis, knowledge, and research. MPs, where are you? And I will encourage all who are listening. You may not be able to write like I have, and I do, but you can simply find them. This is going to the Center MP Moore, and I will take a hard copy to her office. I have done my part. Join me beyond the march. Join me beyond in this chat saying what they should and shouldn't do, and draft, even if it's a simple sentence. MP Abrams, MP Rommel Springer, MP Duguid, MP, please send back that bill as the cybercrime bill has been put on hold, and ask that it not be done swiftly and hurriedly, but it be thought through, because you are making the AG, your colleague, look bad, and you are also bringing discredit to the learned and qualified legal counsels and advisors and team found in the Attorney General's office. And you are making the stakeholders who were engaged look ignorant and uninformed. Please act. You 29, 28 remaining MPs. We've heard, or let's say 26, we've heard the AG, we've heard the Prime Minister, and we have heard Wilfred Abrams. There are 26 more of you. Stand up and fess up and represent those who have sent you. Thank you.
Correct. Well, I almost said Marcy. Rose, I have said, and this is what we as the constituents of constituencies demand. I have said before on this show that once an MP is elected to office, he does not represent the BLP, the DLP, the APP, or otherwise. He represents the constituents of a constituency. And I believe it is the responsibility of a MP that when bills such as what we are discussing and what we are having to confront the government with now, because these are significant changes in the whole aspect of Barbadian operation and public life. These are not insignificant amendments. You're talking about bills that will bring significant change to the lives of Bajans. And I believe that it is the responsibility of the MPs when government is considering things of this nature, that they should come to the constituents, not to the BLP constituency office or to the DLP constituency office, because after election, that should be closed. That should be over, because you now represent St. George North or St. George South. You don't represent the BLP in St. George North. You represent St. George North. You're elected to go to the House. And I believe that you should now return to the constituency when these matters are being considered and present. If you don't know how to present it, bring the people who know how to present it. Let them present it. Let there be discussion and dialogue. And don't anybody tell me that it wasn't done before, so why should it be done now? I understand insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. There must be a change in how we do politics in Barbados, and understand that it is the people who govern their country and not just 30 people in parliament. You're not in there to do what you like. You're there to do what the people have put you there to do. And in the case of significant changes, there should be discussion with the constituents before you even go to parliament with a bill or a law. That's my view. I don't know, GLYNE, what your thoughts might be with regards to this, because you have been in the throw of things. And I know, again, that's how it used to be, but I believe that change is needed as to how we engage the public. And we can't just be talking about noise. I mean, while you are speaking, I am going through the transcript of the speech, and I'm seeing all these disingenuous remarks being made. My friends, this government has the humility to listen and always the courage to correct. I promise you that. Well, there's some things that you're going to hear you ain't going to like. So if you have the humility to listen, then listen and respond. If we are incorrect, correct us with the evidence. Glyne, you're muted. If you're speaking, you're muted, Glyne. Just waiting for you to unmute. You're still muted.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
got you. Got you. You're
Right.
there.
Uh, I first of all want to commend Rose for her Herculean
Excellent.
efforts in
Excellent.
in running down and chasing down, trying to find means of contacting MP Moore. Uh, I too live in St. George North, um, and I want to thank her for doing that. But the extent to which she had to go to make contact is representative of the syndrome that afflicts this bunch of MPs. These are the most equipped, service, privileged MPs in the history of Barbados. They have offices paid for, constituency assistants. They even have no understand constituency liaison officers. So they have all kinds of means of contact. But it seems that the more available means, the less they're being used for people to contact them. But it also occurred to me that when Rose talked about publicizing these events, and I myself mentioned these bills of water, have you noticed how much information, how much promotion, how many full color ads, radio TV promos are being put out for Carifesta, promoting the glories of Carifesta, promoting the benefit of Bible should invite people to come. So when the government wants to do something which is important to them, they sit down and plan, they get it done, and what? So it means that if they want to and consider it important, they can do the same with the very same legislation to educate the people, to inform the people. But I mean, your ears are being bombarded on TV and radio, what you're seeing and hearing. Carrie Fest, this about this great show, etc. But the exact opposite, really well-being and the obligations of the government to the people are concerned. It's a shame.
And it's unfortunate, because I mean, I think as I look through this speech again, Glenn, and while Rose was speaking, I was going through the speech, and I thought to myself, well, why didn't we know all of this before? Why didn't we know all about the education bill before? Why didn't we know all about the bill to do with this thing to do with parental leave? Why didn't we know all these details? And I'm always told the devil is in the details, and I think that's where the issue comes, Glenn, because what
Yeah.
I see, even in terms of the intercept bill, and I may be calling it incorrectly, and please do forgive me, but even in that bill, it's because people explored the details that these flaws were found. And it makes me wonder, in the midst of all the distraction of the season that we just went through, had there not been people who were paying attention, all these bills would have passed through. Because Glenn, remember in her speech, and like I said, I have it here in front of me. In her speech, she was specific to make the point that while all the revelry and everything was going on, they were working. They were putting through some, let me see if I can find it, some 5 bills. Let me see if I can find it quickly here, because I made a note of it. I've
Yeah,
highlighted
yeah.
it in red.
There were 5 bills in truth. In five.
5 bills, while
Right. But
and to me it's disingenuous, because what it's saying is that you're doing some of these critically important things when people are distracted. And when you do that, by the time people are aware of what you have done or what is going on, it's too late.
but that
You
that
see.
that is a well-known technique in political communication. Like in the more advanced countries, there are certain items of news that are put out on the weekend when people are shopping and what and don't get the attention. There are certain bills that come out during the summer when people are traveling and distracted by partying, etc. And there's certain things with time to. So because the more exposure you give them, the greater chances there are people to scrutinize and find their flaws and to generate criticism and comment. So to play it safe, you minimize the exposure and therefore minimize and control the involvement of the country in the debate on the
It's
matter.
very important. Yes, absolutely. Well,
That's deliberate.
let's welcome another lady that I've always enjoyed sharing the show with. I enjoy sharing it with you too, GLYNE. Don't get jealous now or anything like that,
She's
please.
on break,
All right.
man.
But I really enjoy sharing the show with Rose and Maxine and you, all three of you. And of course, when Marcia is able to co-host with me, I particularly enjoy those times as well. I wish she would do that a little more often. But Maxine, welcome to the Loyal Opposition Marcia Week show. It's a pleasure to have you join us, and it was so nice to see you on Saturday. I didn't realize that you could have made it through all that walk. That was great.
That was a short walk.
Oh my goodness! I tell you
The
what,
sun was hot.
I need to up my game then.
No, I
Good
like
to have
walking
you.
actually. And let me say good evening to everybody, GLYNE and to Rose.
Good evening.
And let me start with Pastor Ferdinand. You were passionate tonight. But we have to be, because we are dealing with a serious suite of legislation.
Yes.
At a time in the history of Barbados where, when we look, for example, at the level of violence and the level of what I would describe as disengagement or the estrangement of some members of this population, it is absolutely important that what we have is the utilization of whatever opportunities there are to get Barbadians engaged. And I noticed that before I even speak to the details there, because that's issues looking at two pieces of legislation, I actually would say that there are 3 P's that I would want to look at in relation to this: purpose, process, and the particulars of the bill. In fact, the bills, because today I had to take the time, because I didn't realize until the Prime Minister had spoken, to be very honest, that these 2 pieces of legislation the debate was started in Parliament. And I think it is important for people to recognize this. I actually spent 90 minutes sitting in this chair that I'm sitting now, waiting to get on to brass tacks. I felt it that important. Wow. Because when I called, I asked the producer, he told me there were 5 persons ahead of me, because I usually do that to make sure I have a sense of how long it would take me. And I did that because of the nature of what we are talking about. Now, there's a process. As I said, I'm going to look at the purpose, and the titles tell us essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about legislation to govern immigration in Barbados. The second one is about the conditions under which people are granted citizenship and it is revoked. And clearly, against the background of a recent announcement in Jamaica at the heads of government meeting in July, where the Prime Minister of Jamaica announced as the new chair, and it did not apply to Jamaica. He announced that 4 member states of CARICOM were coming together to introduce free movement as of October 1st, I think it is, yes, if I remember correctly. Barbados is included in there. If I remember correctly, it is Barbados, it is Belize, it is
St.
Dominica and
Vincent,
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Grenadines, yes.
But
You sure it's not
movement,
Montserrat? Montserrat also?
no, there were only 4. I don't know about Montserrat. He mentioned 4.
Yeah,
Montserrat
they
Barbados.
were
is not Montserrat is still
a British
what we call it,
territory.
a territory of a British, British
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah.
territory.
You're right.
So
You're right. Yeah.
right. So that wouldn't fall under that. And so part of what we're doing, I'm sorry, but I unfortunately sliced my finger today, so I'm
Oh
paying a
dear.
little attention to it. That's
Oh
when
dear.
you
So
play with
sorry.
sharp-edged tools. I had a sharp knife. Anyhow, so when we look at that's the context, and so as part of that whole process, what has to happen? The respective governments have to ensure that they have certain legislative frameworks in place. Now I will not spend time tonight talking about it. I will come back to talk to that. But part of those frameworks would be the need to update the legislation. Now, clearly, that is only one element which speaks to people moving in and out of Barbados.
Yes.
But it is a critical element. And people therefore need to have a sound understanding of what is happening there, right? So when we start to look at the purpose of the legislation is intended to regulate, that's one of the issues. But I would also say that, and I would argue that is only part of what's happening, because for some time now, CARICOM nationals are allowed automatic 6 months. So outside of those 4 countries where we are saying we're going to have free movement, we have a regime which allows across the region any CARICOM national, with the exception of Haiti, because remember, there was a decision taken in the early days of this government to remove visa requirements for Haitians. And very quickly, after an influx, and they went back and reinstated that requirement, because we know that we know the challenge that can pose. So when we start to look at all of these things, I mean, movement of persons and so on, these things have implications for demands on health services and so on. And I will come back to a list that Dave put up in terms of concern. But as I said, the 3 things I want to talk about is the purpose, the process, and the particulars of the bill. So right away, what it says to us that when we start to make adjustments to these 2 pieces of legislation, what we have to be sure is that people understand what is going to be legislated, the purpose and the consequences. Because when we look at a list that Dave will show later, after I've made some initial comments, when we need to understand the consequences of this legislation. Now, GLYNE and I served as members of the cabinet and as ministers. I served for 11 months, as I've said before, as a minister responsible for immigration. And it is a serious issue. You know, when you sought to regulate, people sought to abuse me and talk about xenophobia and all kinds of things. But when you are confronted with the realities of the information before you, you need to understand that decisions have to be taken in the best interest of everybody. And I think I heard the Prime Minister talk about Barbadians first. And so when we do this, we can't take it lightly. And I am very concerned that given the very serious nature of the issues to be impacted by these 2 bills, the process that is used has to be one that gives Barbadians an opportunity to seriously look at and comment. And it is not about noise. I am offended when somebody calls what I am doing noise.
Noise, yes.
I am speaking,
I agree.
And I am speaking to issues in a serious way that I would like to hear some noise, as Rose suggested earlier, from those MPs, including the Prime Minister of Barbados, who rarely speaks in Parliament. And I dare say that as somebody who watches Parliament every week, even if not for the entire sitting, I rarely see her sitting in the chamber. I'm not saying she may not be on the compound, and I understand that prime ministers have other work to do, and that's why they have an office in the precincts. But I rarely see her sitting in there and contributing actively to debate. So my point is that we want some noise, because one of the, in terms of the process, one of the things that we would expect from members of Parliament is that they help to educate citizens to understand that legislation. And so as part of this process, you cannot bring a piece of legislation to Parliament. And I will use the immigration bill. And I say to people that if you go to the website of Parliament and you Google bills and resolutions, you will see a list, and it provides us with some vital information. And I want to walk through this, and I hope that you and certainly Marcy and Dave and my colleague panelists understand that it is important to take Barbadians through this information step by step before we get to the particulars. When a piece of legislation, and I went through this last night, I believe, if I remember correctly, I was talking, I kind of touched on it today. When a piece of legislation leaves cabinet having been certified by the Attorney General that it is ready to go to Parliament, there is a process that is triggered. And part of that triggering is that that piece of legislation should be captured and recorded in the official gazette. That is where persons like yourself and myself, if not before, we become aware that, because that's where people look to see what legislation is going to Parliament. That's one of the places people look. Because everybody, some people will look at that, some people will go on the website. And so what happens, that is the case. Now listen, I will share this. Now when you go on the website, you will see, and once you Google, you will see this is what you find. And this is what I'm reading from, for those who think that I'm trying to give you an angle where you see Barbados. It says the Barbados Parliament in the corner here, Barbados Pride and Industry Immigration Bill 2025. So I'm not making this up. And under the title, it says download this document. So I am able to go, and let me say now that the Immigration Bill 2025 is a 58-page document. Wow. A 58-page document. So remember that. Wow. And under it, for reasons I will explain, there's a note, because normally you get download and then it gives you the history of this bill. In fact, let me give you the history, and then I would explain the note that you will see under there. It says history of the bill, current stage, House of Assembly. And that is because the debate has not completed in the House. Notice date, the 8th of August, 2025, last Friday. Yeah, 2 Fridays ago, because today it's Monday. First reading, the 8th of August. First appeared in the official gazette. It says the 8th of August.
8th of August.
Right? Second reading. This is interesting because I think, anyway. Second, I will look at something, but it says the 8th of August. Second reading, the 12th of the 8th of August. I will tell you this. As of 12 p.m. this afternoon, this information was not on the website. I'm talking process. And process is important because at the end of the day, this is where we go to get information. And I can tell you that I started looking for this bill after I heard the Prime Minister make reference to it, and I came off the show last night because, and I didn't see it. Because I did not see it this morning, and I think it's important for people to hear this, I made it my business to call the office, the clerk of Parliament, to ask him where I could find it. I said to him, I have searched the website, because he said it should be on the website. And I said, well, I looked, it is not there. And he said, well, he would call the office because it should be on the website. And between calling him, I would have to go on my cell phone to tell you the exact time that I called because it will be recorded there. And 12 o'clock. And at 12 o'clock, I was holding on to get into brass tacks. So, and I said I was holding on for 90 minutes. Anyhow, the point I'm making is this information was not there. For a bill as serious as this, it was not available to Jane and John public. Now, the process also includes what happens in Parliament, because I'm talking about the steps which lead up to it being in Parliament. I recognize that this would have been addressed in a sitting of Parliament. And according to this, the first reading was done, the second reading began on the 12th, which would have been Tuesday, right? Friday, 9th, Saturday, 9th, Sunday, yes. 10th, 11th, right? That would have been Tuesday. And because I had not followed Parliament to the end, I realized that I meant, based on what the Prime Minister said, and in talking to people, I was told, but the debate had started. And I took time while I was holding on to listen to the Minister of Home Affairs. And this is some of what he said. He indicated that the two pieces of legislation were linked and they were going to be taken as a cognate debate. What that means, members of the loyal opposition to Barbados, whoever is listening to me, as GLYNE would know, you are going to debate the two bills together. Your debate, your contribution would be around the two bills because they are connected. And as he was saying, these things were inextricably linked. Okay, one, as he in his word, one informs the other. And I counted in Parliament. I might have missed a person, but at that hour, I counted 10 members of Parliament present for this debate. We have a 30-member Parliament, okay? And in his words, the Minister of Home Affairs says, it is late in the day. He went on to add that I look across and look around, and according to him, he saw his colleagues. He said that they had a lean and hungry look. In other words, they were tired. So 20 people were, well, 19 because you would have had, no, the 10 as far as I remember included the
leader of the opposition?
The speaker. No, the leader of the opposition was not in the chamber when I counted. Okay? And he said that he would try to be as brief as possible as he can while I do justice to these two signal pieces of legislation. His words, not mine. So he recognized that this was signal. Signal suggests important, critical. And so he is saying we have a game changer for Barbados locally. I wrote the word regionally because he used more than one word to describe regionally, and for Barbados on the international stage. Not my words, not my assessment of the legislation, but the admission of the Minister of Home Affairs that this was important. He went on to say that Barbados is at a critical demographic crossroads. And he articulated why. We have an aging population, we have a declining birth rate, and all of these things. And I took time to spell out some of what he said. He talked about the consequences about it. He says it will be erosion of productive population. It will impact our, in other words, he concluded that with those characteristics, you were creating a shrinking workforce. We're going to end up with a shrinking workforce, erosion of our productive population, threaten our nation's competitiveness. He said we'll limit our ability to attract investment. We will have difficulty filling skills gaps, etc., and give a thorough analysis of the impact of demographic changes on the country. Now, having said all of that, and signaling that this was a critical, or these were two critical pieces of legislation, pray tell me, why is it that Barbadians, people like ourselves who take the time not to come here and talk foolishness, but to do serious research, did not have access to this? And I will say this. He also, beyond contextualizing the legislation, he also sought to present a picture that there was wide consultation. And I say that is a ridiculous. But then again, we heard him in relation to the interception of communications bill, the wiretapping bill. We know what he said about that too, making absolute statements about the need for a warrant. So he went on to say to us that he spoke, as I said, he spoke for 53 minutes or so, and he went on to indicate that somebody, these were some of the references, somebody who had the opportunity to read the legislation over the past 2 days, said to him, "This is beautiful." Well, Pastor Ferdinand, GLYNE, you and I didn't have the chance to read and see whether it was beautiful, ugly, or indifferent. You understand? We didn't get to see it. But this person said it was beautiful. He then went on to say that that it went to the Bar Association quite some time ago. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not privy to what goes to the Bar Association, but he said it went some time ago. He also went on to say it went to certain well-known lawyers who deal with immigration matters. And he said then the bill went on the back burner. But before it went on the back burner, it could have shared it with us too, as the public, okay? He said it resurfaced and it went out to a subcommittee of cabinet. And these were his words. Everybody in cabinet had a say. Every single person weighed in cabinet. GLYNE, you can tell me how significant that is if you're looking for wide consultation. He spoke of the collective input it allowed, that it allowed them. So as far as he's concerned, it had wide consultation because they consulted with the very large cabinet that exists right now. But I want to say to the Minister of Home Affairs, to the Prime Minister who spoke to the nation last night, this is not the way to go. Because at the end of the day, and if Dave can put up the list he had before, I would run through some of that. And I want to say that the public has a right to weigh in on this bill, not after it went to Parliament and the Minister of Home Affairs spoke and then said it will go to a special committee. So it's going to go to subcommittee of Parliament for governance, and the debate was suspended. But now,
was there quorum? Was there quorum present? Could you mention that when you counted, including the speaker? I believe you said. Am I right?
Well, but that would be part of the quorum. I believe that person would be part. And
but there were only 10.
Edward Tull is saying that 10 persons. He's asking me what's the quorum. I think it is 9. I would have to go back and check. I was not a member of the House.
Okay.
So I won't be able to that even. You know, I mean, the House is larger than the Senate. The Senate has 21 persons.
Maxine,
yes.
Before you read those outlines that Dave was putting out, I just a couple of quick points. related to your presentation, which I thought was very extensive and very informative. You talk about the official gazette, which used to be a printed physical copy, which you would buy and people kept and filed. Now I understand now it's electronic. I don't think, as far as I know, unless they've gone back to the old system, it is now published electronically. So that further limits the public access to the information. Secondly,
go ahead. You're correct.
I heard the Prime Minister say last night that in future, these various pieces will be broken down into pieces of one and given to the public in bite size so they can understand how come that has not been done with these purpose of legislation. When are they waiting to do it? And I hope to. I have some information. I have some angles on Carifest I want to talk about, which I come back later. But I think they are hiding things in plain sight of people. They know full well that most people. I am still a paper person. I believe in my paper. I can write it, my note, dog ear, whatnot. I like to feel it. My reading of something online is not the same as when I have it physically in my hand. Psychologically different. But I'm saying they're deliberately minimizing the opportunity people have access to. Not every Barbados has a laptop or phone that can get online. Not everybody does. Not everybody wants to. And they cater to a minority and say, but that, and for Mr. Abrams to outline, or the group might sound a lot, and a big group of persons who were supposed to be consulted, but it's a very limited group. So that does not represent, or should we represent all of Barbadian society. I noticed he didn't say what were the reaction from any of their groups, like the law bar associations or whatever. He just said they were concerned. What were their positions? We don't hear about these positions. I try to get back to it there.
You're correct. I mean, I noted at the bottom he said that the bill benefited, and I quote, it benefited from wide consultation in cabinet. So I suppose that's the only consultation they want, which is a joke.
Yeah, I mean, you can't consider that to be wide consultation. I mean, it's the same people that sit in Parliament are sitting in cabinet. I mean, that's stupidity of the highest order. Pardon me, I'm not very diplomatic at times with my language. But
I agree with you. But that's the kind of thing we're hearing.
Yeah, but you see now the Prime Minister will come and talk nonsense about noise and conspiracy theories and falsehoods and all of that.
Keep dismissing that talk. Keep dismissing that. It's not serious talk.
I have to say that I ended up not listening into all. But remember, the other thing that was important for me, because I'm looking at the immigration bill. I haven't gone into the citizenship bill yet, because it was a cognate debate. But all that I heard him say for the most, because then I had to, as I said, I was holding on, and as I recognized the callers were going, I then had to stop. But I have to go back and listen to hear to what extent did he touch in his cognate contribution, the cognate debate on the second bill, the citizenship bill, because I'm looking at the immigration bill, and there, what is listed here are a number of concerns. People, and Dave can go through them. There are concerns about poll manipulation, voter padding, and so on. So there are implications for elections. There are issues relating to pressure on social services.
Social services, yes.
And we're talking only housing and land ownership. For instance, right now, if you're talking immigration, we are talking about people who we've heard about managed migration of workers. And even as we speak, the issue of housing and accommodation for workers, because I mean, if you go on most work sites now, the major projects, I mean, I go to Brandon Beach almost daily, except Sundays. Anybody who knows me know I've been doing that for about 20 years. And there's a major development there.
Oh, yes.
And most of the workers that I've seen look like Latin Americans, either from Central or South America.
Yeah.
And there's some Chinese and so on. My question is, where are they living? Under what conditions are they living? How is that fit into their pay? I mean, there are a whole set of issues. My other question is, while they are here, what about the social services Are they able to access medical? Do they have to have medical insurance, or are they what happens? So these are the kinds of things, and we haven't, and you have housing, and now you're talking about people who probably move into the country. One of the issues somebody raised was the issue of the becoming part of the culture and adjusting to the culture that is Barbadian. The whole question of integration into the society. How does that work? So it is not a question of people being xenophobic. I know a certain gentleman used to love to toss that word around, especially when he was talking to me, accusing people of xenophobia. That to me are those kind of cop-out buzzwords that refuse, that are intended to distract you. Let me put it that way. When we call for serious analysis of issues,
Freddie, Maxine made some very ominous and disturbing disclosures there. The interpretation, the thing about citizenship, for example, ever since that occurrence of the giving away of the $220 million of land, the affixing by, I become very conscious of Barbados in its patrimony and its sovereignty and its essence in any way whatsoever. Okay, I heard the Prime Minister say last night that Barbados will not sell its citizenship.
But it's doing that now. But
how come that same principle did not apply to the land at James Lane? So I'm very weary of all these promises. And like Maxine said, all this talk, the legislation is not online. Nobody was followed again. Process, function, structure. So they give lip service, but when you check, it is not being followed by action, and nothing can be trusted or taken for granted.
I am being told, Maxine, you and Glenn can confirm this to me, or anyone in the chat. I am being told that there are people coming from Ghana and Nigeria to Barbados in order to give birth to children in Barbados. Because of course, when they give birth in a particular country, you become a citizen of that country. In terms of the child that's born here, because I observe in the Prime Minister's speech, she talks about falsehoods. Is there anything false about that statement?
No, it is not false. I can tell you categorically that about two years ago, I would have spoken to a couple of taxi drivers, and they were not speaking secondhand. They actually identified areas in which people were delivered to accommodation, names of contacts, medical personnel, and so on would have been shared with me. And in fact, there is online
a racket. There's a racket there.
Yeah, yes.
That's called a racket. Call it what it is. It's a racket.
A racket. There is online a Nigerian woman.
Jeez, hombre.
Speaking to the benefits of this, because you see, at the end of the day, this person may be encouraging people to do it, not knowing that it is a racket in Barbados. But then, so that is not a fairy tale.
Maxine,
go ahead, Glenn.
I don't mean to be invidious.
I saw that too.
But I'm very weary of when I hear certain countrymen from certain parts of Africa, Nigeria and Ghana, even parts of the Caribbean, Jamaica, who seem to have this proclivity for scams and rackets. Everybody has a share, but it seems to be part of the DNA, the culture, where they're always looking. So when I hear this woman promoted, I take it because that's a promo. So they're benefiting from that promo. And I think
the reason
that should be nipped in the bud when we are dealing with the amendment to the immigration or citizenship. That should be meant to no longer make it automatic. but there have to be certain conditions thereafter.
For that, because I mean, these are things I think that even in the US they're beginning to address at this particular point in time, from what I've observed. Not that we agree or disagree or anything, I'm just making that observation. But you know, when I think of it, because I'm told that the Barbados passport is one of the most valuable passports on the planet. And of course, you know, there's countries that we can travel into with our passports that do not require visas. And of course, as you know, there are many African countries where they do require visas. So if a person has a Barbados passport, you have free entry and exit into certain countries without visa. When I hear you make the mention about our citizenship and our birthright not being given. I think you mentioned something about that just now, GLYNE, about our citizenship not being given away or whatever you care to call it. I mean, there's some serious, these are some very, very serious positions that need to be taken. And I take umbrage. Is that the right word? Because I have to learn some of these things.
Good word.
Good word.
I take umbrage. I take umbrage that when we raise concerns of this nature, Maxine, that it is considered to be noise, or it's considered to be conspiracy theory, or it's considered to be falsehood. I had somebody on my Facebook page talk to me as a minister about the ninth commandment, and I am sharing facts in terms of what the individual, you know, and I don't understand why people can just sit and say nothing. I mean, anyhow.
You know, I would say this, and to critics, because as I listen to extracts of, because I started to listen to the Prime Minister, then I came on the show last night. So I have to go back and listen to that part that I missed. But then I listened to the extracts carried in the news. And I smiled because, you know, I said, for those people who rushed to the defense of the government and sought to vilify us, let me put it that way. In fact, today the young man talked about hysteria. What was it? He said not hysteria. Something like that. Suggesting that you again, a form of noise. Let me put it that way. And I had to ask him if that was intended to describe my contribution, because I don't take my calls to programs like I don't take what I say on this on these shows lightly. I do my research. I come from a position of seeking to say and do what's right for Barbadians. But before, I've been looking at the time, and there's one thing, because I just wanted to share this, because as I spoke about persons from South America coming here, whether as on the managed migration program to work or free movement or whatever. For the years that I served as foreign minister and subsequent to that, Barbadians in the diaspora have always queried, what are you doing for our descendants, our children and our children's children? And I know that one of the things that was contemplated, certainly before I left office, was the whole issue of fast tracking them. So as I read the citizenship bill, it warmed my heart. And I would read that provision, because if it's something that is in here that I'm happy to see, and I trust it will stay there, is in part 2 under the section titled Acquisition of Citizenship. And it says additional grounds of citizenship and registration of certain persons as citizen. Section 3.2 says, subject to section 4, a person who was born outside of Barbados and who is a grandchild or great-grandchild of a citizen of Barbados may, upon application to the minister in the prescribed form and on payment of the prescribed fee, be registered as a citizen of Barbados. And this, I think, will warm the hearts of many Barbadians.
Yes.
Initially, the automatic thing was just one generation. This has now gone down to the second and the third generation.
Thank God.
So,
I mean,
my
commend them for that.
Can now apply when this becomes law. Or for all of us who have siblings and cousins and relatives and friends in the UK and the US and wherever. Because if you're opening the doors to others, the question always was, why
open the door to yours?
to our own,
Yes.
restrict our own.
Yeah.
So that, to my
Absolutely.
mind, is
That's a
a
good
bright
thing.
spot in this citizenship bill.
Yeah.
But
And
so
I
I
mean, you
think
know,
that, sorry,
no,
go
I
ahead.
was just saying, no, I was just saying that we commend them. We commend them for that. That, you know, it's not every single thing that we're going to be critical of them of. If there's something that of value, we'll commend them for that. And I agree with you. That is a tremendous inclusion in terms of the grandchildren and great grandchildren, because a lot of them don't even. I mean, I don't know if a lot of them even travel to Barbados. Probably some of them have never even seen the country, for that matter. I don't know how it is. You know, right here in Barbados, I talk sometimes to young people and they don't even know what I'm talking about when I talk about certain things in this country. So, but that is great to hear, Maxine. That is really really good to hear. But listen, we had a request that came into us, Maxine and GLYNE, from Victor, just for a couple of minutes to raise a matter of deep concern to do with St. Joseph. And
Okay.
Marcy's asked me to just give him a couple of minutes in the show to be able to address it. So I want to bring him in, and then after he's finished, maybe we can go back to this. And we wanted to try to touch on the. Let me just see here. We wanted to try to touch on the Police Act as well, Section 68 of the Police Act. I don't know if we'll get to that tonight. Because there's so much contained in everything that you all have been expressing in terms of all these bills that have just come bam, 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 one after the other.
Don't forget my request for a few minutes on
Yeah, for a
Carifest.
couple of minutes on Carifest.
That is very serious.
Carifest.
Some things here have made it even more serious.
And we want to take a couple of calls as well. So maybe we might do that, GLYNE, immediately following Victor's presentation, just for a couple of minutes. Okay, just to give him a couple of minutes there. Okay, Victor, let me bring you in. Good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Yes,
I
good
got a
evening.
communication from Marcia to do with, and I trust that they have the imagery for you to put it up, to do with some situation to do with Melvin Hill Bridge.
Melvin's Hill, yeah, I'm
Yes.
very concerned about this. Right
Mhm.
at the bottom of that hill, to the left side, that is where repairs would have started in terms of the restoration of that bridge. So we would have spent a whole lot of money already in terms of the restoration of this. But let me give you a backdrop. We have Lanes Bridge in St. Joseph closed, Erie Hill Bottom closed, Coggins Hill closed, Mellows closed, Ridge Road closed, Spar Hill closed, Upper Fruitful Hill closed. And Mr. Ferdinand, no, we have Melvin's Hill Bridge now also closed. How in the world that can we sit down as a people when we recall that the representative for St. Joseph said at the St. Joseph Speaks meeting that St. Joseph can wait. And this is what we have waited. We've waited as a people. And look at where we've ended up now as Josephines, a parish that everybody loves to come to. And this is what we have been subjected to. Now, if you come from the area of Fruitful Hill, let's go from Sturgis. When you come from Sturgis and you make the left turn as though you want to go to Melvin's Hill, that is closed. If you try to make the right turn to go to Sugar Hill, then Lanes Bridge closed. If you try to go past the supermarket, you're going to be going down into the Erie Hill Bottom, that is closed. And what is also happening now is that the Chinese are now looking at Coffee Gully. Coffee
Wow.
Gully, that's the road now, that's the bridge now that brings you out to Blackman's. The Chinese gone in there and they're looking at that bridge with suspicion. If that area ever collapse, St. Joseph now is non-existent.
How do you move around?
We will now start to have to access all of those roads that I mentioned that are closed. All of those roads are access roads in St. Joseph. This constitutes, in my opinion, significant poor leadership by the
Wow.
representative for St. Joseph. Poor. Now we've got Allen School, and school starts back in another maybe 2-3 weeks, as the case may be. All of those buses coming up Coggins, they can't come up Coggins no more. They can't come up now Melvin's Hill. No, they can't come down nor up. So how will the staff at Allen School and you know the other primary school there in Belplain, when I got to think about Belplain, you know, I must be conscious of the fact that I went to Belplain in Dublin Road, a road that has waited for so long to be repaired. They put down gabions, they put down marl, they rolled it, they paved it, and then the whole thing collapsed. That is gone after significant money spent by our government in Dublin's Road.
Wow.
And I can recall this, Melvin's Hill, because if you continue, because we're looking south here, if you continue to go north,
Jeez.
out of the screen, you're going north. That area we have spent significant money on, and this is also now in a poor condition. When you leave Melvin's Hill and you're going Upper Parks, when you get now to the area to make the right turn, you cannot go through the ridge road. I think you can recall, Dr. Ferdinand, that I would have been on the show talking about the condition of the roads in St. Joseph. That ridge road that has been abandoned by the constituency rep is now, we are now in need of that. If you don't want to go through the ridge road, but you want to go through the crescent, that's another perceived access road. And I want to say to the people, to the drivers in St. Joseph, all those individuals who intend to try to use the crescent as an access road, that road, there's a culvert going through that road that is also collapsing. I would have passed there during the time where we had the hill challenge, and there's a big hole in the road with a culvert in the area of the crescent that is also collapsing. So you cannot pass through the crescent safe. You can't pass through the ridge, it is closed. You can't pass Lanes Bridge closed, Erie Hill closed, Cobbins Hill closed, Mellows closed, Ridgewell closed, Spar Hill closed, Upper Fruitful Hill closed, now Melvin's Hill closed, and soon, don't beg me, Dr. Ferdinand, don't beg me.
Wait. Hold on.
The representative for St. Joseph said we can wait.
Hold on.
What we experiencing.
Hold on. GLYNE, Maxine, and Victor, you all try to, because I want to share quickly for the last few minutes. We have GLYNE and Maxine to bid on the police act because it's coming up in our march on Saturday. But if I recall correctly, did not this government get a loan from the IADB back in 2018 or 2019 for road rehabilitation, and another loan here recently for road infrastructural repairs and so on?
They got money from the Chinese infrastructural loan. It was a significant amount.
$100 and something million, I think it was it not?
I'm gonna look at it. That would have been probably something million US, probably.
Yes,
but
US.
I want to ask Victor as I try to Google that. So how are people getting around?
I don't know. You know, some folks are not going to try to take the risk to go through Chimborazo. And Chimborazo is also traveling now from its current location that is now heading into the Mellows or heading into the Ridge. Chimborazo now is experiencing a significant slip just before you get to the Jehovah's Witnesses Church. That whole area is slipping and is heading towards the Fighters, or maybe down in the area of the Mellows. So it is so unfortunate. I know I will need to come back, you know, to really bring the folks up to press for what is going on. But it's a very serious thing in St. Joseph, and we are extremely concerned as to what's going on.
Adrian makes a good suggestion here, Victor, if you can get it done. Why don't you do a map highlighting these road closures for St. Joseph, that we could get a visualization of it, and come back on the show so people can see the extent to which, because a lot of people may not be familiar with the names of the roads you're calling. I happen to be, because I grew up with my father and everybody in St. Joseph, and
Beautiful.
I'm familiar with it. But a lot of people may not realize it. As a matter of fact, the other day I was in a traffic jam going across from the Jackson roundabout heading toward Lears, and I turned around and I went up, thinking I would have been able to go through Jackety Box Gully and get around. And when I got up past the B's supermarket, not B's supermarket, the B's place there, and got almost going to think, I find the entire road gone. The entire road gone.
Gone.
I had to turn around and go all the way back down and go back into the traffic to get to where I was going. So these are things that again, you see, the government will tell us a lot of foolishness about noise, and the reality of it is that people are frustrated. I have never been paid out for the damage on my Mazda sports wagon, over $5,000 for my wheels and rims and headlights and shock absorbers on a pothole I hit out by Lower State. So it would be good, Victor, when you come back in, if you can come back in at some future time, we'll arrange
Right.
with Marcia.
I
And,
just
and
decided
that,
to
I think that suggestion that Adrian has made is a good one. That you can do a bit of a mapping. You might be able to do it off of Google Maps or something like that. I'm not Dave. You had to talk to Dave about that. Okay, you had to talk to Dave about that one.
Well, fair enough, but I
good.
just decided to come in just to
Yeah.
to highlight so that people will be aware and that they'll be cautious in their travel. So thanks very much, and
You are very welcome. Very welcome.
Yeah.
Great to have had you. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you taking the time and coming in. We
thanks
just
a lot.
want to turn our attention for the last few minutes, GLYNE and Maxine, to this police act. And I think, if I don't know if you can make it a little bigger, Dave, on the screen. I had seen some of the issues on Facebook, but I couldn't believe what I read with regards to this act, where Ms. DePisa is indicating that the act is saying that if you do not assist a police officer when you're called upon, that you could be guilty of an offense liable to a fine of $10,000 or imprisonment for a year, or both. Is this really in the content of this police act?
I must tell you that I heard, in fact, today when I was discussing the two pieces of legislation, immigration and citizenship, the moderator was diverted to speak to this. I had not seen it. Because he was saying there's an ongoing discussion on social media, which I was not aware of. But again, on the surface, as I read this, it sounds like utter madness. And my question is, what is the rationale for it? I mean, okay, any person who, when called upon to aid and assist a member of the service, meaning the police service, who,
Right.
while in the execution of his duty, is assaulted or resisted, or in danger of being assaulted or resisted, refuses or neglects to aid and assist a member of the service, is guilty of an offense. Now, let me look at a practical scenario. And so you're saying on summary conviction to a fine of
$10,000 or 1 year, or both.
My question is, if I am called upon to assist, does the officer who needs assistance know whether I am able to assist? What are the circumstances? Let's say that the person has some kind of serious weapon, or whatever the case may be. I would want to hear from the Attorney General, the Prime Minister, and their cabinet colleagues and parliamentary group explain to us the thinking behind this and why it is. Now, if you are telling me that you were going to find somebody for preventing an officer
from
carrying out his or her duty, that's a different story, because I watched some videos that I find particularly distressing, where police officers are seeking to carry out their duty, and citizens or persons around them seek to taunt, to prevent, or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So my question is, what's the thinking behind this? And GLYNE, I
No,
am
you go
baffled.
ahead.
Not just in baffled. I would have to read the legislation.
I'm flabbergasted from what I read because
Madness.
does it take the vulnerability? What about damage? What about injury? What about death to the person?
Yes.
How are those covered? This person has not been trained, so I don't understand this authoritarian thing that they're jerking down our throat everywhere possible. It is madness.
But if in the attempt to assist the officer, you are injured, who pays for your injury?
But don't forget, the officers themselves are not even covered by insurance. The officers themselves. So what about the civilian?
Pardon the expression. Are you serious? Our officers, our police officers,
their vehicles are covered, but not them.
No, and that's one of the first things you should correct and deal with the police. You're taking a fighting crime. When they're going to get hurt, they have to take sick leave. They're not automatically covered by a program that will cover their injuries or their damage. No, believe it or not, in Barbados, are we going celebrate and carry festa? Huh?
I wonder if this was subject to wide consultation among the cabinet members.
But it's obviously wrong. How can they not see that this is wrong and foolish and iniquitous and it's damaging? What do they see when they get in cabinet? They lose their brain.
It's like they don't give thought to these things that they come up with. I am told, for example, that in Trinidad, and I think I don't know if you all would have got this, a driver was charged for not helping police, and it sparked national outrage. In just right here in Trinidad.
So you're saying that this is happening, or that they may be copying something that is written into law in Trinidad. I don't even know if it's law.
I don't know.
From whence I wonder from whence it has come. I mean,
because the wording is vague. There's no protection if you're injured. The penalties are very harsh. There are no safety clauses. The law doesn't say your duty depends on whether it is safe or reasonable. This means even the elderly, disabled, vulnerable could be criminalized for not rushing into danger. I mean, I wonder how do they go about putting these things together?
It makes me wonder.
Sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
It makes me wonder if they're going to AI to get these drafts.
But because this is going to
high tech and modern.
This is going to impact every citizen because you don't know at what point you may be called upon. You could be on the road, you could be on the highway, you may have to stop. The vehicle may be blocking you, or the police vehicle may stop you. These are things, and we need to march on this. This is the next thing we want to march on this coming Saturday, August, I think it's the 23rd, 10 o'clock. And I want to throw in a little punch here for that march. This coming Saturday, the 23rd, 10 o'clock from Kensington to Independence Square. It will end with a roadside parliament. But let's give a listen, Maxine and GLYNE, to this video. I don't think it's very long. I think it's just a couple of minutes. This is a private citizen here that did this video, but I think Ms. Mottley would probably call this what she called this noise. I think she might call this noise. Dave, you can play that first. Let's hear what this gentleman, and he has every right to express his opinion. It's a democratic country. Dave, play. Let's hear what he says.
Volume.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
No volume.
You might have to restart it, Dave, because there's no volume that we're hearing it.
I wake up this morning.
Okay, good.
Are you hearing about this new law that apparently has been passed or is to be passed? I already know what's going on because I was out in basically I wasn't really listening to much things and it would have missed me. But if it is the law or a law that has been passed, a bill that has been, whatever it is, I don't like them and I don't feel comfortable with it. And I can tell you why. If we're talking about freedoms of being democratic, it tramples every right that I got. You understand? That if I leave home today exit my house and I go into society as a normal, loving, giving citizen that want to see everybody in this society, you know what I mean, succeed and do well and try my best to do everything I could do on a daily basis to help uplift the society. And I pass down through whatever place and I see a police and a man in some kind of, battle for whatever reason. One got a gun and one got a knife. You're saying to me that I can't use my discretion if to get involved in that or not. That if I have to get involved in that, and if I don't, that I'll be charged $10,000 and probably end up being a criminal because I'm paying $10,000 because I use my right as a human being not to get involved in something I know nothing about or that I feel might be dangerous to me. That making a sense. Where's my rights? Where is my rights? Where's my right to say I don't feel comfortable or safe getting involved in that situation? The most I could do for is call the police and say that the God say I have no here, come over here help. That's the most I could do. Don't ask me to physically get involved in nothing. You understand? Actually, leave it up to me and my discretion. Let that be my choice. Don't tell me I have to, or else I can get charged. Because no, that is you taking it now from me being a free man to being dictated to that this is what I got to do as it relates to my safety. That making a sense. I got to talk.
Yeah, I think he has every right to be concerned. He has every right to express himself because I'll tell you the truth, Maxine and Victor, good see you still there, GLYNE. I watched a clip on Facebook with Denzel Washington, and he was sitting in a car and another car pulled up alongside of it, and the movie camera showed a gun in his hand on his lap, no tint on the glasses. Okay, and I thought to myself, well, I don't think it would stop him from using that gun on the fella that come into him at all, and they had no tint. It's just, and I'm not necessarily speaking back to the matter of tin. I'm speaking to the matter of people's rights that are being trampled upon. And here you are saying to the average citizen in the country that if you refuse to assist a police officer, and mind you, I think it should be left up to the individual to determine whether they feel capable. I mean, I am not going to go into a situation with a man 297 pounds fighting with a police officer, and I don't know what weaponry is available. And if I refuse to do it, the police officer shouts at me and calls for assistance, and I refuse to do that. Am I now faced, in order to protect my own life, am I now faced with imprisonment for a year and a $10,000 fine? I am now going to be a criminal?
How does this gel with there's a well-known, I'm not sure how authentic it is, principle, Mr. Lewis will know what this one as a former police officer, a citizen's arrest. How does this mesh with that principle or practice of a citizen's arrest, where a citizen's arrest, where the person volunteers to do it, but when you're instructed or called upon, how does it also match with the legislation that was just passed, giving members of the Barbados Defense Force authority to arrest?
Before you answer that, Victor, just let me make the point that the bill has been passed. It was passed on the 8th of August, and it is now before the Senate. Go ahead, Victor.
The citizens' arrest has been on the law books for quite a while, and this is in an area where you're of the opinion that you can take action in order to stop a particular activity from happening if in the life in a situation where some person's life is being threatened and you're the only person on spot. That is constituted as a citizen's arrest. But I really support what the gentleman said just now. When an officer intends to bring you in as support, you have no grounds for coverage. You cannot in any way seek to justify your actions based upon the fact that a policeman is currently present, because the law now weighs on the policeman rather than weighing on the citizen. So in the first instance, when the gentleman spoke, he says, well, he he can decide. He should be given that right to retain the right to dictate or to determine the action that he desires to take at that particular point in time. If he thinks he should intervene, well, let me feel free to intervene. But when it is mandated that a citizen has to assist a police officer, I think the onus here is a bit questionable, because the weight now is on the shoulder of the police officer rather than on citizenship. We need to see them in two distinct areas.
And the thing that concerns me here as well too, Maxine and GLYNE and Victor. Suppose you're dealing with a gang related situation for the police, and you try to assist on their call, and then you and your family are exposed because you try to assist and they identify you, because this is a small country. This is not the UK and America and Canada where you can move to another state. This is Barbados, and they identify me, find out where I live, find out where my children or grandchildren are going to school and all of that. I am now exposing my entire family, and I am doing it because I'm afraid of a $10,000 fine and spending a year in jail.
But that apart, Freddie, if you were to follow this instruction or this demand and get involved when you damage or injure the civilian, can he sue you civilly? Can there be a civil case against you for any damage or wrong or injury was done to him? You're vulnerable, you're liable. What are the implications of this? What are your entitlements? What are your rights? What is your protection? What are your responsibilities? It really is quite a perplexing and dumbfounding situation.
Listen, I'm going to be a bit facetious. Somebody must have been smoking or snorting something and they came up with this. And they're the ones that should be locked up. Now, on what basis? I mean,
it is in the act, Matt. It is in the act.
I know, but where it come from? What's the logic behind it? Where, and you see, this is where I have to ask the question now. Because I cannot, and GLYNE, you can, like me, you can put yourself in the position of a cabinet member. I can hear colleagues of mine howling when they saw something like this, questioning it and asking, where y'all bring this from?
Right.
On what basis are you proposing to do this? Because it passed, so nobody didn't challenge it when it came.
Yeah, it's passed. It's passed.
When it came as a cabinet paper to come to Parliament, nobody in preparing to speak on the bill decided that, look, I need to raise this because I really cannot.
Let me let you into a little secret. I'm told that the problem is that not many people read their documents, their bills. They don't read. They usually read their colleagues' cabinet papers. They do not even read. Sometimes read their own property. And the fear is that sometimes people don't get involved because I'm told that if a minister presents his paper to cabinet and people get involved and try to question, sometimes it takes umbrage. Good word again. It takes umbrage that you tell me this is my paper, my minister, you can't do. So sometimes people don't get involved because of they don't want to be harassed and berated by their colleagues. So it's a mixture. But I understand part of the paper is that a lot of reading does not go on, as you can tell from the quality of their verbal presentations in the House of Senate. Because if you don't read, you can't speak properly because you don't have that vocabulary to call on, those expressions to call. So it looks as though we have a political problem.
I can only share with you gentlemen and Barbados what we did as cabinet very early, and I've spoken about this on this show, I'm sure previously, very early, and it was soon after we came into office. Prime Minister Thompson took the decision, look, it makes no sense, because this is probably what happens now too. I don't know. I can only hazard a guess. When we came into office on Wednesdays, and GLYNE, you can tell me what happened. You got
Right.
a big stack. You can literally get a stack of cabinet papers, a thick folder, or maybe a couple of those for your jackets. You know, stacks of papers on a Wednesday evening to come to cabinet a Thursday morning to discuss what might be routine things or complex pieces of legislation like this. And the decision was no, this is not practical. This is not conducive to efficient and effective analysis and discussion. So subcommittees were set up. You had a committee of governance, so legislation would go to something on infrastructure, and you had those kind of projects. You had social, what they call it, social care,
Sure.
you know. So, but things like matters related to welfare, you know,
Right.
education, whatever, and economic matters. So you had these four committees. So once the legislation came, you looked at them. This is complex. It goes to this committee, that one. And the important thing was that it wasn't just a committee of a subset of cabinet. The committee could call on, first of all, a permanent secretary, a minister would have his or her technical people come in to present the paper. If you needed somebody from the SG, the Solicitor General's office or whatever, those legal people would be present, and you can bring people. So you discussed it. So something like this, somebody would challenge it and say, "No, how legal is this? How sensible is this? How realistic is this? What risk are you putting citizens to? Where did you draw this from? Was the rationale for this?" And so you would have those discussions, and it would either be recommended take that up, or it makes no sense. But it wasn't something like this would not.
May I comment here, though?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Victor.
You know, my concern here, you know, is that we know that the Barbados Police Service is very short when it comes to, you know, manpower. And there's been quite a lot of efforts made in order to, you know, boost that. You know, we've heard about soldiers now being given powers to arrest, as the case may be, and they have not been trained as police officers. So that is a very unfortunate, you know, thought to begin with. And now this, we are looking now to put some structure in the police force as far as manpower is concerned by looking now to bring in a whole catchment now of citizenship to empower them, you know, to take a stance and support police officers because of the deficiency of the police service. We cannot afford as a people to go this route. When I sit down and I look at this here and I read it, you know, it just really puzzles me, you know. It really puzzles me how legislators can sit down and write something of a nature such as this. What do you mean by assist? You know, many a times that we go, I would have gone to scenes, we would ask civilians to step back. Don't encroach the crime scene, as the case may be. We don't ask you to step forward, but here now in 2025, we're asking citizens to step forward and assist police. But no, before we ask them to step back and allow police to control that particular environment, are we asking them now to step forward? Step forward with a consciousness that, you know, I am a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a brother, I'm a sister, I got family, and then as you said, you know, this is 166 square miles. How can we subject ordinary citizens who have not been trained to an environment to look to assist a police officer? This constitutes just like what we saw in that, you know, crime bill.
Cybercrime bill.
Not the cybercrime bill.
The communications, the communications bill. Yes.
With that flaw in 52B, and now you have this. Yeah. A legislator sat down and wrote that.
I want to read a comment or extract from the Prime Minister's speech. And against this background, I'm going to quote her. This is her speech. And I quote, "For more than 3 decades, more than half my life, I served this country in Parliament. Barbados's Parliament has bred a culture of serious evidence-based debate. Where's the evidence base on this? And is this serious? You're talking about people who have served. She has served 3 decades. I don't know how many the Attorney General has served, because it would fall under his portfolio, as far as I would think. This would fall under his portfolio. How in the name of God could this have got through? I mean, we have caught it. We have caught it. This is not noise. This is not conspiracy. We have identified it. The people of the country have identified it, and it is deeply concerning.
Ferdy, it is clear to me now that this phenomenon is happening with such regularity,
Yes.
such frequency, that it really constitutes a systemic problem. Something is wrong.
Something is wrong.
I remember.
Something is wrong.
I remember that cabinet papers will make their way through the system. I have some details I could talk about another time. I think Maxine might have done it. But when it got to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretary, right, flaws were often spotted. They had to be revised or sent back or withdrawn or whatever. But it seems that the quality of management of the process, or the people who are, because one of the advantages of a bureaucracy, which often gets cursed and criticized for the taking too long and too many steps, the steps are meant to protect the integrity of the process, where some boys can have a second look, another a more experienced look. But it seems that is going through these things like gravel salt or castor oil, and nobody's stopping it. Something is wrong inherently with the system, or the quality of people who are managing or don't oversight the system, that they're not stopping these outstanding, obviously wrong occurrences.
Outrageous. You're correct.
But Maxine, please again correct me, because I don't have always the greatest memory. I shouldn't say greatest memory. I don't have the greatest recall. My memory is brilliant, but the recall may be a little challenging. But I am pretty sure that I heard the Prime Minister talking about we don't have a lot of time. We have to push through things. We have to move quickly and this kind of thing. And I'm asking the question, what is the hurry? And she talks about how we are importing conspiracy theories and whatnot. The only thing I see that could be causing this government to have to hurry things through Parliament is Agenda 2035 or 2030, is it? That's the only thing I can see. And it's an external agenda established with this matter of sustainable development and so forth. Maxine, I think you would know probably a lot of this, because I can't think of anything else that would cause the government to want to hurry things through in this manner. I just can't think of any other reason.
I am blaming it on that. What I gonna blame it on is, well, I see more internal, that maybe she wants to get some things done because she wants to call elections. The Prime Minister, from what I am told, is not in favor of a 5-year term. She prefers something shorter. But my position is this: whatever your agenda, if in this case haste makes waste, you are rushing. I just think that people, and GLYNE touched on something, before cabinet papers come to cabinet, they all go to the cabinet secretary in the cabinet office, right? The prime minister has a say on what comes,
right?
And so there's that oversight outside of the certification. In other words, there's set of what I would call checks and balances that normally would obtain before the legislation comes to the cabinet office to be brought to cabinet. The Attorney General signs off on it. Now, the Attorney General, in my day, read a piece of legislation, word by word, line by line, page by page. And I would have heard comments made to that effect and cautions given that when this thing comes, it's supposed to be ready. Now, if that is not done, first of all, and remember I talked about process, purpose, proper process.
Yes, I wrote it.
and particulars, the content.
Yes.
When
Purpose,
I see the,
processes, and
when
particulars.
I see these things come, I have to ask the learned attorney jargon, use the language that lawyers like to use, Glenn. Did you read this? Did you read this? Did you agree that this was important? No, the thing about it is this the police service comes under what? The Home
It would
Affairs?
have to be
Home
on.
Affairs.
Home Affairs
No.
ministers. And in part because I would ask the question beyond the Attorney General, because he has the oversight of the getting the word into proper legal form, etc. But the instructions, the drafting instructions, which speak to the particulars, the content, the substance, the subject of the legislation, comes from the particular minister and ministry.
That's
So
right.
if it was something about education, the minister, or in this case, the ministers of education, I hear education transformation, whatever it is, those two ministers would be the two people I would say have initial responsibility to make sure that the content is there. So if it came from agriculture, Minister of Agriculture, if it came from tourism. So I don't understand. And then, so once it is, just give me a second, let me finish. Then it gets certified, it goes to the Cabinet Office. And between the people in the Cabinet Office, which is part of the Office of the Prime Minister, falls under the Prime Minister's responsibilities, then determines, so I think there are multiple points of failure. And all of them
Maxine,
need to
is
take
this really
responsibility.
fair, bro? Is this really failure? You know, I want to
It's
question you there on
neglect,
that
it's
one.
failure, it is
You
lack
know?
of knowledge. I don't know. It's
No, no,
just
no, no,
something
no,
wrong.
no. I want to go a different route.
Okay, go
I
ahead,
really
sir.
want to go a different route.
Please do.
Because I'm seeing convenient design.
Okay, that too.
Convenient design because
Yes, yes.
That too.
of course,
That too.
we
That
have
too.
we have a
Yeah.
situation, and you spoke just now that here is the AG is there, in a position of oversight. But if he's there in a position of oversight, and we had to call upon Corey Greenwich, we had to call on the Marcel Vick show, we had to call on so many other different individuals who cashed in and offer their opinion as to what's going on with that intersection of whatever. When we can have that happening, and we have such learned individuals in a position in order to vet these legislative pieces, my conclusion can only be that these things are by design and they have an objective. It is saying clear to me that 5 bills were passed 4 days after Kadooman. What are the implications when we have people out there? And I heard ma'am spoke to it. She said that while the folks were reveling, we passed bills.
Yes.
While the
5
folks were
bills.
there, their alcohol and their wine and dining, we
Yes.
passed bills.
Right.
So because of the possibility of an intersection, or to avoid that intersection, we have a very convenient design in these bills, and therefore by design, we want to slide them to either justifiable or
That's
questionable.
right. That's right. That's right.
Um,
I really
timing.
believe that. I really believe that. Well, listen, folk,
what,
they tell you when you're having fun. What time flies when you're having fun? I don't think we're having fun
Time flies when you're
necessarily.
having fun. Or when
I
you're having
think
serious conversations.
yes, I think time flies when you're having a real serious conversation, because I can tell you that everything we've touched on tonight, almost needs a show on its own. I mean, when you're talking about immigration, citizenship, when you're talking about the Police Act, when you're talking about the Communications Bill, the judiciary, I mean, when you're talking about all of these bills that were hurried through, I just looked at the and thank you, Marcia. I mean, Maxine, for the website. I just looked at the history of the Police Amendment Bill. It was first read on the 29th of July. His second reading was the 8th of August. It was passed on the 8th of August. and is now before the Senate on the 11th. And all of that happened during festive times, where everybody in the country is distracted. And it just seems that that was her own admission. That was her own admission. I didn't say it. She said it in her speech. GLYNE, I can give you the closing word because I think Victor would have given his. And Maxine,
Okay.
you want anything to add? Well, I can give Maxine the final word because she's a lady in our midst. But GLYNE, I'll let you
That's
go before her.
discrimination against the
Well,
men.
you'll have to take discrimination. My mother taught me
I
that.
just want it occurred to me. You're familiar with the saying that good should not be the victim of perfection. Somehow, the saying
Something like that.
Okay. Well, last night the
Something like
Prime
that.
Minister used a similar one, which helped to deal with speed. She virtually said that they're prepared. I'll check it tomorrow. They're prepared. They're prepared to do things speedily. Because if they
Yes.
don't get it right, we correct it next time, and we gotta get things done.
Yeah.
So definitely, maybe if that is the mentality of the Prime Minister of the cabinet, no one of these things will happen. Rather than speaking perfection first time, get it right. They say, no, that's all right. If you make mistake, we come back and do it again. But we going through with the speed. You should not let perfection stop you from doing things speedily.
And then you shouldn't be criticizing the citizens for their noise and conspiracy theories and their questions and their criticisms.
That's an amazing attitude. Absolutely amazing attitude.
Absolutely. Madam Maxine,
Well,
as the only lady here left.
I am a bit uncomfortable with the discrimination, but GLYNE, I follow instructions. let me say that I spoke tonight about what appeared on the website of Parliament. I am particularly disturbed that, and somebody confirmed for me, and I will just read when I spoke about what I saw and when I saw it, and the dates of something being gazetted on today's date. And this person wrote to me and said, "Don't doubt yourself, Maxine. According to Parliament's website today, around minutes to 1 p.m., it said that it was gazetted on August the 18th, 2025. And I think that in speaking, I will go back and listen to what I said on Brass Tacks today, because I think I read that from the website. All it says to me now is that I'm going to have to not only rely on what I see, but I'm going to capture it, take pictures of these things. Because if we're going to get to that point, and my final word to the Prime Minister, I will take a couple minutes and share with you some articles on management and leadership. The Japanese have an approach where their position is don't get into the corrections. Do it right the first time. And I have a niece, she's now a grandmother, but when she was a child of under 6 or so, her mother always used to tell her, and at first, please, you should not say sorry. You should not be saying sorry. And the rationale was do things correctly, do the right thing, and then you don't have to apologize.
Yes.
We waste time, resources, whether it's human resources, monetary, whatever, to as the Prime Minister suggests, haste and correct it later, because some of those errors may be fatal. Gentlemen,
Wow.
As usual, it's good to work.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure having all of you on, even though for a brief moment, Victor, thank you for taking the time to come on as well. I want to thank Rose as well. She's had some challenges getting back on, and then with her voice, she's messaged me to just indicate. So she slipped off to give her voice a rest. But I want to really thank you, Maxine, and you, GLYNE, for tremendous contributions tonight. I don't have any final words for the Prime Minister. I don't know that this will be diplomatic. And I will just leave it at that. I don't think it would be becoming of me as a minister to say certain things, but I remember someone saying to me recently that there was a time they were in a discussion with somebody about Singapore, and Maxine, in your expertise, you might remember this, and you might give me a clearer aspect to it. They said about 69 years ago or something like that, Singapore spoke of Barbados as the example for the development of Singapore. And today, look at Singapore and look at Barbados.
That is possible because Lee Kuan Yew and Mr. Barr were at university together. They were close.
Okay,
but that is quite possible.
That's probably where it came from.
Right.
He couldn't tell me who it was. He was just in a conversation with a much older minister, who was a missionary and dealing with things on that part of the world.
Correct.
And he made comment of that. And I must say, I took a glimpse at Singapore. They're looking at their development, their whole aspect of finance, city management, everything is just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I look at Barbados and I think to myself, wow, where did we miss it? Where did we miss it? I love my country.
I have some management texts I bought in Singapore. Maybe I could share some of those.
I would love that. And when I looked through some of her comments when she talked about people bashing Barbados, nobody on this show, nobody anywhere that I know of has bashed Barbados at all. Who we have bashed is the Prime Minister and this government. That is who we have bashed. And the problem that they have is that this is going global, and a lot of what she may have wanted to do is now in jeopardy because the rest of the world now knows what's going on in Barbados.
There used to be a French phrase. I think during the French phrase, I'll try to remember my friend. L'état est moi.
L'état est moi.
I'm the state. So maybe the Prime Minister is Barbados, and Barbados is the Prime Minister. L'état moi.
Maybe. Right. I dropped French early. I dropped Latin early. I didn't pick up any languages. I went with science, so I don't know what you all said. So,
I don't know anything about physics or chemistry.
Well, mine was physics and biology and a little bit of chemistry, and that's that. I went the science route. I don't know why I went that route because I haven't used one iota of it in my life. Anyhow, thank you all so very much. Thank you, Dave.
Good to see Victor.
Your support. Yes, good to see you, Victor. Marcy has been there to keep an eye on me and making sure I do things properly and in order. And I hope I've been able to maintain that. And I want to thank, most importantly, the loyal opposition who has stayed with us all the way through this show. As a matter of fact, I think I saw the number of people viewing climb over 1,100 people tonight. And that in itself is tremendous. So we want to say thank you to you, the loyal opposition. Thank you, Maxine, GLYNE, Rose, Victor, and Dave. I don't know, Dave, if you have anything to close particularly with. I always leave that in terms of a song. He comes up with one of them. Sorry I stole your thunder a little earlier, GLYNE, if it was that song I read last night.
No, I mean, it was quite appropriate.
Yeah,
quite
it was absolutely appropriate. I don't know if he wants to close with that.
I love that.
With that. Dave, GLYNE says he would love if you close with that. So why don't we do that? Close with that song.
In the name of my children and my grandchild, I want to live in a country where there's freedom of expression. I want to live in a country where no despot can feel that they should hold the destiny of my children and my grandchild in their hands. And that Mayor Motley is a menace. She's a menace because she's a despot. She's a menace because she's a despot, believes that she has a right to be a despot. She tried to be a despot with me. And I want to end by saying this. My parents sent me to school so that I should not be a boy in the yard for any despot in this country. And I will be true to them and true to my children by fighting this despotism that is taking.
And I will not be a girl in the garden.
There was a press conference in Bristol. The people wanted answers. If you see them journalists gather round, swooping in like vultures. When the conference was over, the people there were no wiser. Them journalists won't answer the call, them and ask the questions at all. Oh, not at all. Not one about the UDC and how it's helping some people get rid of poverty. Not one asks about the treasury, PTA or BADMC. I thought one of them would ask who is really responsible. Cause I always hear without a doubt we must be accountable. I thought one of them would ask about the cost overruns, like the government building down in Warrens that eating up the millions. I thought one of them would ask how effective is PAC. Is it really public or run politically? What happens after inquiry? Does somebody tail become grass? Not one. What they gonna do about the golden shower? I mean the silver sandbar. Not one act. Not a single journalist. Not a single journalist. I don't mean to criticize journalists, but it was depressing. Like some kind of phobia is amiss, cause they don't like probing. I'm always hearing about freedom in the realms of journalism. The only way is to be fair, and then there should be no fear. Needless to say, not one asks about the bus fare. Why would a minister announce raise and PM say no way? Not one asks about strike action. Even the school children involved in demonstration. I thought one of them would ask what's happening with Concord. Will the fancy pill remain luxury we can't afford? I thought one of them would ask when it rains up at the airport, is it true in the new departure lounge you could very well get soaked? I thought one of them would ask why we still here in Biden. If we are pushing the CSME, why not by Caribbean? So do we have a fishing agreement? Look how much time has passed. Not one asks. What will be in Republic do for a Bajan lad or a lass? Not one asks. Not a single journalist. Not a single journalist. So much talk we hear about them journalists. People say they're biased. They must do research, the people insist. Some of them too callous. Never thought they would squander this chance to go for the juggler. Them journalists, they sat right there and let the chance slip away. Oh, what a day. Not one asks about the cost of land, and that there's no hope to get a piece for a probation. Not one asks about the economy, and how nowadays the price is really killing we. I thought one of them would ask who is really getting the smell, cause a lot of agents without a cent, they too must be smelling hell. I thought one of them would ask, is it hard times that contribute to a mother sending her young daughter to become a prostitute? I thought one of them would ask, did it have to take a fire for them to take prison overcrowding off the back burner? What really caused the uprising? What I heard really made me laugh. Not one asked. A gay man said that he wanted to know when a gay rights bill will be passed. Not one asked. Not a single journalist. Not a single journalist.
Well, just before we leave you, a final reminder on Saturday coming, the 23rd of August, 10 o'clock, from Kensington Oval to Independence Square roadside parliament when we arrive there follows, and we are marching demanding the amendment to Section 68 of the Police Act and national consultation on the immigration bill. So join us this coming Saturday. We look forward to having you. We have over 1,100 tonight here on the show, and we look forward to all 1,100 of you, even those of you overseas flying in just for Saturday. Would be lovely if you could join us. Amen. So thank you again so much, Loyal Opposition, for being with Marcia, with myself, Maxine, GLYNE, and Victor, and of course, Rose. Have a great, great night. God bless.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody. Good night.